Welcome to the heart of France for Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe, round 7 of the 10-round championship, and it's the 4th of the sprint series, and the temperature is rising, the humidity is rising, and the level of competitiveness is absolutely at burning point. 32 cars coming here to play, all the manufacturers tilting for glory, 4 classes across the racing sphere from pro all the way down to bronze, and the competition in each of those classes is really starting to hot up. And for the teams, it's about consistency as well as speed. 2 races here this weekend, and it's all about getting the cars set up right for qualifying on the Saturday. We have the night race and then the final race, the second of the 1-hour races on the Sunday. The championship spread across 4 series around the planet. It's growing with every year. And here in Europe, of course, started the season at Circuit Paul Ricard. Here we are at round 7, also in France at Magny-Cours. It's the penultimate round of the sprint series. We'll head to Barcelona for the final round of the sprint series, the final 2 races in the middle of October. It's been a frenetic season and really busy. The top category is pro. So that's exactly what it does on the tin, and Team WRT always at the front, now getting very accustomed to their BMWs, and it's Charles Weerts and Dries van Toor who are leading the way. They've had great success here before, and they're high in the overall standings as well as the sprint category.
It's been a few years since we've been here. For sure, we are here with a different car, so it will be different, of course. But I think it will be a good challenge. It will be a night race where we can have some fun as well again. The Mercs, I think, will be fast, will be strong, but we're going to try our best to increase that lead.
Lucas Auer and his Winward Racing teammate Mauro Engel arrive here just 2 points off the sprint series lead. And for the Austrian racer Auer, he's loving the experience of the circuit.
It's actually for me my first race here, so we had a test, but it's a very tough track. You have especially the first sector, very high speed, and then it gets really technical. A lot of curb riding, which makes it fun as a driver, but also challenging. So it's, I think qualifying will be very dominant here. You need to be in the front. I think overtaking is difficult, but overall a cool track. First of all, we need to find the right setup, the right speed, and then I think it's all about not making huge mistakes and delivering on track.
In the gold class for gold and silver rank drivers, Luca Engstler is really looking forward to the race this weekend, but reverting from Lamborghini to Audi.
I mean, obviously pace-wise, we've been very strong in Hockenheim. We expect not to be on the same level, to be honest, but in the end, you never know. Yesterday we had a good day. In this championship, everything is so competitive, so a lot of factors need to come together to be like spot on. But I think we'll be all right.
Santalot Racing's Paul Everard and Gilles Magnus, a class winner here on the series' last visit in 2022, know that a class win or 2 in the Audi could put them on course for a potential overall European and sprint gold class double.
Well, the beginning of the season was really good. Gilles was really amazing, and it was really good for the team. But the last meeting at Hockenheim was not good, really bad. First good race, but the second race was the first race with not a podium. But the championships will be long, and I hope a good meeting in my home. Maybe a victory this weekend, and I hope a victory for the championship.
Simon Gachet and Lucas Legeret are looking to give the French team CSA Racing a top gold class result here on home ground at Magny-Cours. And the Franco-Swiss pairing have already tasted class success in their Audi at Misano early this year and hope that they can really get on top of this incredibly technical circuit.
Yeah, it's my home race. I know very well the track. I know also the Audi, so for sure it's a plus for me. The weather is nice. We are third in the championship. We will fight till the end. We have the pace. We have a strong lineup with Luca, strong team. So now we need to be on the podium each races to be champion till the end. So we will do it.
In the silver class for all silver ranked drivers, French racers César Gazot and Aurélien Panis are delighted to be racing on home ground this weekend, but know that everything must go the way of their Buisson-Ginion Mercedes.
For sure we lose a lot of points at Misano because we had like 2 technical problems during both race. So for sure we lose a lot of points, but the fight is still on, so we're gonna fight hard and see what we're gonna do. It's been a while that I didn't race here, and honestly it's quite tough. It's like you don't really have a lot of place to the mistake. It's gonna be 2 tough race, but we're gonna fight hard for sure, and it's gonna be good.
Australian racer Callan Williams and Sam Dehaan lead the way in the silver class by 29.5 points. And Team WRT will be doing its very best to make their BMW really competitive enough to give them a chance to add to their 3 class wins in the 6 races held to date.
You have to finish every race, because if you have a DNF in one race, then it's a massive amount of points that you lose. So yeah, being consistently near the top and just doing a solid job every weekend is really, really important, and that's what us and the whole team have done so far this year, and it's paying off.
The fourth of the classes is the bronze class, in which you must have at least 1 bronze class driver. The other can be ranked up to platinum in standard. Stephen Paulette was a class winner here with Simon Gachet in a Santalok Audi back in 2020. This time he'll be looking for bronze class honours, driving alongside Stéphane Denoual in a Schumacher CLRT Porsche.
We won in 2020. It's still special to win at Magny-Cours, and I hope do the same thing this year. A lot of fans will coming again, and it will be for sure a big party, a big celebration. To do the same thing, it will be so simple. It will be push like maximum, no mistake, clean race. We play in the bronze category. Last time we won the overall with Simon Gachet, a friend of me, and it's really a big memory for me.
Century Motorsports' Daniel Harper and Darren Lung arrive in France with an 11.5 point lead in the bronze class, despite missing the first of the 3 rounds held to date. Thanks to their 2 class wins in their BMW last time out at Hockenheim, and he knows that consistency is likely to be the key to success here at Magny-Cours.
We've had a really good start to the season. We've had 2 wins, another podium in Misano, so we're leading the championship. Obviously there's a long way to go, still 4 more races, but we just need to keep the momentum going, keep scoring points, and that's the aim of the game.
So the cars leaving the pit lane and working their way around the 17 turns of the Magny-Cours circuit. My name's Bruce Jones, alongside me John Watson, ready for the first of the 2 races. It's light now, but we are going to go into the darkness.
Yes, lights will sort of go out about 20:45 or 9:15. There will be a residue of light. There you see the view, and it's still very warm, 27.8 Celsius. Ambient track temperatures dropped considerably from the qualifying earlier in the day, down to just under 30 Celsius.
So on the front row, it's Ben Green in the Emil Frey Racing Ferrari and Dan Harper in the bronze class Century Motorsport BMW. The second row, Sven Muller, brilliant job in the Rutronic Porsche, alongside Christopher Haas for East Talent Racing, who are really dipping into the Sprint Series pond. Dennis Marshall starts 5th, and Dries Van Toor, championship leader, will start 6th. That's not too bad. Sandy Mitchell in the bronze class Lamborghini starts 7th, and Luca Engstler leading the gold group will start 8th. Then comes Dylan Pereira, Treasure Attempto Audi, alongside the second of the Emil Frey cars with Alto in. Then Lucas Auer, second in the championship, needs to make progress from 11. Lorenzo Petresi starts 12. Ugo de Wilde looked really promising in practice, and Ezekiel Perez Companc, who's top of the silver class on the grid. Lucas Legere, expect a great deal from that pairing in the CSA Audi. Stephen Paulette, the Schumacher CLRT Porsche, alongside Thomas Fleming and Eliseo Dono. That could come forward, the AF Corsa number 71 Ferrari. And Benjamin Goethe, really we need to get a good result for Garage 159. William Panis for Boots and VDS, and then comes the first of the Country Racing Aston Martins in 20th position. Patrick Kujala in the second Barwell Lamborghini starts 21st. Pavroud alongside Louis Pret in the second of the McLarens from Garage 159, and series debutant Sebastian Ogard, 20-year-old Dane, starts in 24th position. Expect progress from Eddie Cheever in the Sky Tempesta Ferrari. And then we go to the next row. Maxi Goetz is sure to improve from 27. That's a car that should be at the front. Callan Williams leads his class, starting down near the back, but he's got the points in the bag. And then we go to the final row of the grid with Ricardo Feller starting 32nd. He's a driver you'd expect to have in the top 6, so look for progress from him. So the 2 cars on the front row, Ben Green in the Emil Frey Racing Ferrari, and alongside him Dan Harper, Century Motorsport BMW. They are in the best seats in the house. There must be a lot of action for the others to watch, but they will be trying to make their getaway. So into the final sequence of corners, they come round onto the start-finish straight, but the lights on the gantry won't go from red to green until all 32 cars. Well, they did snap when we had maybe just a dozen of the cars with view of the lights, and it looks like a very good start from Dan Harper. Oh, what magical shots as the light falls here, but Ben Green got his Ferrari just across, and the car in about 6th place. Is that
Might have even been Dries van Tor, ran a little wide, but they've all got through. This is the wonderful sweep through Estoril and then through the kink and all the way up the slope to the Adelaide hairpin at the top of the hill. Neat and tidy.
It looks like, I'm crossing my fingers, but looks like most people have managed to get through the opening turns cleanly. I'm just looking at one of the Boots and VDS Mercedes. I don't know whether the front splitter on that might have been damaged slightly. I thought I saw it wandering around. But Dries van Tor trying to get up ahead of the Porsche up into third place down at Adelaide hairpin.
Well, he gained 3 positions, 6th to 3rd, but a real challenge from the first of the 2 Rutronic cars with Sven Muller pushing very hard, but the first 2 in grid order, but then Dries van Tor has nailed down that 3rd place. No wonder he's in the lead of the championship.
Yeah, and also coming down to this is Nürburgring, this quick chicane, right, left. He was going right, left, trying to get that temperature raised as quickly as possible into the 4 Pirelli tyres, so that when he gets on the brakes or has to make a commitment in one of these 17 turns, he knows the balance and the grip of the car will be with him.
There's plenty of gradient change. They come up through the sweepers to Imola. They get to the top of the hill and work their way down to, this is Chateau d'Eau, and it's still the Ferrari of Ben Green leading the race. And in behind, neat and tidy, but really the job was done in the first couple of corners by the first 2 cars. They preserved their front row positions. It looked like Dan Harper might be able to sweep around the outside into 1. Wasn't prepared to go for it. Again, tyres still cool. Now the heat is really coming into them. The chicanes being bounced around big time there. That's coming onto the start-finish straight at the end of the opening lap. It's Ben Green from Dan Harper, Dries van Tor, Sven Muller, Christopher Haase, Sandy Mitchell, Luca Engstler. So the driver who lost out actually was Dennis Marshall, fell back from 5th to 8th, but really neat and tidy. And the challenge there for 3rd place.
Yeah, just looking, Sven Muller and the Porsche have held a much tighter line in through Grand Curb, and look at contact, Sandy Mitchell getting robbed, pushed slightly as Dennis Marshall and the second Rotronic Porsche manages to box in the Lamborghini. But is this an attempt on an overtake? But it's the wrong part of the racetrack for Dan Harper, and still Dries van Tor. But Sven Muller in the Porsche, side by side, 3 into Adelaide, does not go.
Well, already Luca Engstler moved up a position, but then Dylan Pereira for Tracer Attempter Racing gained 2 positions up at Adelaide. And I tell you what, when you're watching one of your rivals and someone steams up the inside of the pair of you, there's not too much you can do.
Also, just keep an eye on the Mercedes 48, Lucas Auer. He has started up, he's got himself on the opening lap up into 10th position. But look, Harper's having to go defensive and he has. So
that was almost like a voluntary place swap there to let another BMW, different team, but championship leading car outright in the Pro Class, Dries van Tor.
I would hate to think that was the case, but it did look as if Dan Harper pulled over and gave Dries van Tor the opportunity to have a go at trying to run down Ben Green.
I mean, it could well be that when we were unsighted, we weren't looking at that particular battle, that maybe he just felt Dries is putting me under excess pressure, but at the start of the lap, certainly the pace seemed to be with Dan Harper.
So there's a manoeuvre. That's one of the Boots and VDS coming. Oh, contact, and the Aston Martin sort of almost synchronized spins, but that clearly was a tag from the. Was that?
It was Maxi Gertz who started way down at the back of the field, unexpected, poor qualifying session, and being tagged by number 21, which is David Pittard, trying to make up ground through the final corner onto the start-finish straight, but it took 2 to tango, and tango wasn't what they wanted to do.
Just coming into Adelaide, just how close was Dries van Tor to the rear of Ben Green in the lead Ferrari? That gap, well, as they came across start-finish line, was fractions over half a second. And as they came into Adelaide, it looked as if it was less. Just a visual eyeball on it looked as if it was probably under that half second. So again, there's a resurgence, a charge. Look how close the BMW can catch to the tail of the Ferrari coming through that middle part. That's the 180 degree. It doesn't have a corner name per se as others do. So that's the 180 degree corner.
Right, what comes next, John? It's the Imola chicane. That's what they're taking now, and then they snap to the left, and know they have to immediately get to the left-hand side of the circuit to take Chateau d'Eau. The first 3 cars, that's half a second maximum between them. And look how this is a fantastic graphic. This is the bronze class in the Century Motorsport BMW. That is how much faster each lap Dan Harper has been than any one of his rivals. That is why he is now going to be about 0.4 of a second off the lead of the race, and maybe in a position to take a move back into second place overall. He's leading bronze class by 3 positions in the race, and I think with Darren Lung being a really, really strong bronze, they're in a great position to extend their championship lead. But he wants to take outright victory. That's what racing drivers are here for, John. Now let's take a look. Moves down towards the back of the field. And it's been a busy race. These are the last 3 cars in the race. The Mercedes in front of that has already had a spin. That's Maxi Gertz, being spun by the number 21 Aston Martin, which is now at the back of the field. And in between them is Sean Udsworth, the racer from Singapore, in his Ferrari going, just leave me alone, guys. Just race on another bit of time.
Yeah, well, that was actually, we didn't catch it at the time, but Max Gertz did get past Sean Udsworth. So that was a positional change from 31st to 30th. So 93, have 5-second time penalty to be served at the pit stop for, again, essentially track limits.
Yeah, that's
change,
a move for the
race,
lead of the race.
change.
Ben Green has just been attacked by Dries Van Tor. I think there might have been a body rub, but looking to maybe benefit from that is Dan Harper trying to make it 3 abreast. This is fantastic racing. And Ben Green, was he caught napping? Was it opportunity? He's not prepared to give it up. He's cut the corner there. The stewards will look at that. Dries Van Tor going down through the Nürburgring and now down to 180 turn. He's on the outside. So he got into the lead, back into second. Dan Harper thinks he has a bit of the action. And in 4th place, Sven Muller's going, this could come to me. I'm joining this.
If I was WRT, I'd be rushing straight to the steward to say that was a pass taken by the Ferrari off the racetrack. And now you can see, I mean, he either given the place back or it was no real option. So Dries Van Tor has got the lead. And Dan Harper up the inside. Oh, opportunistic bounce over the curb, hits the Ferrari, punches the Ferrari off the run. That'll be looked at likewise, because that was, an aggressive move by Harper. Went across the inside of and there's been damage done to the Ferrari, or is it just he's just gone through the gravel and his tyres have got clogged up with the dust and detritus that you get on the gravel traps. So an aggressive move from Dan Harper.
Well, it really was. He thought he had half a chance, and Chateau d'Eau became Chateau, oh my dear, and off he went. But that was a great move. That half lap, the overtaking we had between the first 3 positions, it was so tight, so close. We had the corner cut at Nürburgring by Ben Green, that I'm sure will be looked at, but Dries Van Tor's come out of it smiling, and Ben Green quite the reverse, because by the time he'd rejoined, he was down in about 12th place. Well, let's take a look at the replay of what happened up at Chateau d'Eau.
A legitimate move down the inside from the BMW, gets alongside. Now this is where Ben Green decides, I'm not going to give up my opportunity, my lead. Side by side coming down through the little curve before you get to the Nürburgring. And then the BMW technically, or in fact was ahead. You see both cars, but particularly the Ferrari, cut across the inside. And at that point, strictly speaking, I think Ben Green should have given back that position to Dries Van Tor. And this is then where it all began to kick off. Now, whether he gave it up voluntarily, because we saw coming up into Imola, and then watch what happens on the exit of Imola, coming up into the entry into Chateau d'Eau. And Dan Harper makes a very move. There it goes down the inside, bumps over the curb, slams sideways into the Ferrari. Ben Green's got no options or choices. The car, it's like a snooker ball, Bosch. So the pit lane is now open. It's been open for almost a minute.
But when will Dries Van Tor come in? We had a shot just moments ago of his teammate Charles Weerts, ready, helmeted, suited up, waiting
well,
the
team's
team
up
the pit. And it's now. Here is the answer to the question. Dan Harper, of course, continues. We knew he'd do that. He's going to stay out as long as he can before handing over his Century BMW to Darren Long. We saw Darren still not with his suit on.
And Sven Muller, who was running in 4th place more or less since the lights went out, he's likewise come into the pit. He'll hand over to Patrick Niederhauser. And here we see this is the pit stop, which will dictate, I believe, who or which driver team pairing will end up standing on the victor's podium. So assistance from Dries Van Tor. All 4 wheels and tyres will be changed, and it'll be an interesting in-out time. The Porsche is, oh, what's that all about? Well, there was a slight confusion. Was that a release that would the man on the flag tried to stop the Porsche going up because the Ferrari coming in had to brake? So that was a little bit of a miscommunication for Patrick Niederhauser, but he's gone. He's down the pit lane. There you see the Porsche, the yellow and blue Porsche, making its way back out onto the circuit.
Wow, amazing RT shot there. Dan Harper hasn't finished with this race yet, but he will have to fairly soon when the pit window closes. But putting the Century Motorsport BMW high over the curb, it just shows your fellow Ulsterman, John, there, he's not taking any prisoners in this race. No. But the lead battle for those that have pitted is very, very tight indeed. Charles Weerts protects the inside line, saying, Christopher Niederhauser, if you're going to get past me in your Rutronic Porsche coming through the final corner, you've got to do it right here, right now. And he's jolly well having a look down into the inside.
Yeah, it's his brother Patrick who's driving, not Christopher Niederhauser. Anyway, he's gone through. He's gone through. What a great pass going into Grand Cab and now into Estoril, and that was a well-executed move. Began on the run down into Virage du Lycée, and now the Porsche, just simply because it's lapping quicker, than Charles Bates is doing in what was the 32 lead BMW. But again, look, catching, going through the curve at Gov. He's going to have a look down the inside. Niederhauser goes to the right to protect the inside entry, but watch for the switchback from Charles Bates. Porsche will run slightly wider on the exit, the tighter exit for the BMW. But Niederhauser's just done enough to consolidate that advantage.
Right, what do you do now if you're Charles Weerts? How much do you try and unsettle Patrick Niederhauser through the next 2 corners? Had the Nürburgring chicane, and here is the race leader at the moment, but one who owes us a pit stop. He'll be diving in, and Dylan Pereira will come in as well to hand over to their respective teammates. Meanwhile, somewhere around the circuit, we have a new race leader. Patrick Niederhauser ahead of Charles Weerts, but where will this car come out? Has Dan Harper built enough of a lead for Darren Lung, who's taking over the Century Motorsport BMW, to get back out in front of them? He could have done.
It'll be dictated by the length of time the car has taken to enter, stop, wheels change, driver change. Currently, they are roughly, I would say, midway through. If they can get that car turned around with a stop in the 41, 42 second bracket, that will be, I think, something they'll be pretty happy with, but they've still got to do. Here is the race-leading Porsche, or effectively the race-leading Porsche, and it seems as if Patrick Niederhauser, there the BMW is rolling, so this is what has been the lead bronze car, but here are the 2 race leaders in effect, the Porsche leading the BMW, and Darren Lung comes down the pit lane at 50 kilometers per hour.
Yeah,
now!
Only now. I thought Dan Harper would have built a big enough advantage for him to be just ahead, but let's go down to the pit lane, and we will bring you an interview with Dan Harper for Century Motorsport.
Dan, first of all, what an incredible performance you put on in that stint.
Thank you, yeah. Got a good start. My plan was to try get Ben on the first sort of lap or so, but he drove well at the beginning, and then I just sort of settled into a rhythm. I seen Dries, and I sort of knew Dries was going to be coming quickly behind, and obviously we're not fighting in the same class and fellow BMW, so I let Dries go and sort of fight the battle with Ben. And then I was just sort of hanging on to them and waiting for it to kick off. I knew it sort of would at some point, but I was just sort of waiting for it. And then when it did, yeah, I mean, I didn't know if the smart thing was to sort of get involved or try and hold back, but they were fighting so hard for a few corners that actually the guys behind caught up. So I couldn't afford to really take it easy. So whenever Dries went past, Ben was wide, and I sort of thought that was my chance to make a move as well. So I dived up the inside. He squeezed me really tight, and there was a big sausage curb. So when I went up the sausage curb, because I had no space, then unfortunately we had a little coming together. So yeah, it's a shame for Ben, but we're all fighting hard, and yeah, I really enjoyed it, so it was good fun.
Oh, I'm about to really rain on your parade. You've just been given a 10-second penalty.
Okay.
Talk me through that.
Yeah, I mean, I can see where they're coming from. He ended up in the gravel. In my opinion, it was a racing incident. Obviously, it was just a tough one, tough battling, heat in the moment, with 3 cars battling hard. And yeah, in hindsight, I maybe could have been a bit smarter, but learn and go again next time.
Well, you showcased yourself brilliantly. Best of luck in the rest of the race. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, it's always tough when a driver has to get the news that he's got a penalty, but here is a replay of the move. Chateau, he talked about the sausage curb, but he was clear over that and clattering into the side of Ben Green's Emil Frey Racing Ferrari. Just want to point out, Consul Lapalainen, the car that was leading the race, was knocked out of the race in Ben Green's hand, is now up to 5th place. His next target, but it's 11 seconds up the track, is his own teammates. Yes. Traffic can often be an issue, and particularly with proper darkness. It fell here about 15 minutes ago, not long after the drivers who were doing the second part of the race got on board. It could still be a factor. We can see through the gloom there as some of the front runners are giving chase, but it's Patrick Niederhauser, best part of 2 seconds clear now, but the gap between second and third is coming down because Maro Engel just 1 second on the nose down behind Charles Weerts. Charles nearly 2 seconds down on the race leader, so if there's any place change, John, in the top 3 positions, it's going to be second and third. This is the battle, looking back from second place, Charles Weerts and Maro Engel almost on his boot.
And they're about to go on. There's 30 seconds of the race remaining, so they're up at the highest part of the circuit. And was that a move around them? I couldn't quite cut away, but to this drone shot, fireworks are already firing, so counting down 20 seconds. Where are the lead 2 cars? Are they coming into now? They're just, I think, going to get this across the line. 14, 13. No, they're not. I think it could be the final lap.
Well, we're looking at the bronze battle, and I've just got news in that 97, that's second in class, but to assume the lead, unless Rob Collard goes past Dustin Blackner's car, under investigation for unsafe release in the pit lane. Remember, that went right across the nose of the 71 Ferrari when it came in. So many twists and turns, and in this battle, you've suddenly got a Boots and VDS Mercedes getting in to enjoy the fun, but maybe break up the battle.
Well, there's been battles all the way through the field, and it's been a tough race. I mean, it's a 1 hour sprint race with a driver change, wheel tire change, and there's not much chance to catch your breath. So the Porsche has to go defensive coming down into the tight Virage du Lycée.
Well, that was Jules Gounon, who started way down the order, took over from Maxi Goertz, who started in about 27th position, working her way up, but only just getting in the top 20.
Battle for second place on this final lap. And you can hear the bodywork, the splitter on the front scuffing against the curb now. Engel looks at, it's very difficult to see how we could find a way through, but still, nevertheless, he was having a look as we look further through the field at all these battles.
That's the battle. Rob Collard has moved ahead of Dustin Blackner, and that will be taking the lead in the bronze class. It's not the lead on the track.
He's Rob Collard's run wide in Grand Courbe, and he's lost he gained the lead in Estoril, but the Porsche just got a better entry. Rob Collard ran slightly wide and it's much dirtier on the outside of the circuit, so big washout from the front of the Lamborghini.
No one's told Rob Collard, and he can't take the risk of assuming that. But here we have the other Rutronic Porsche coming down, a 2-second advantage through the first part of the final corner, through the second part, onto the start-finish straight. First win of the year for Rutronic Racing with their Porsche. Sven Muller started it, Patrick Niederhauser finished it. They will be delighted with that, and I think Charles Wirtz has hung on to second place just by 0.3 of a second from Maro Engel. What a great fight back. So the top cars in the championship finished second and third position for Charles Wirtz and Dries van Tor. Second just extends their margin to a marginally more comfortable 5.5 points. It's been tight, it's been a real battle. Thierry Vermeulen, brilliant run for Emil Frey Racing, leading home. And now this is gold, this is fighting right the way to the finish. Lorenzo Ferrari, can he hang on in the Audi 88? Yes, just ahead of Simon Gachet. 6th and 7th position, but first and second in the gold class. As close as you like. The margin, 0.3 of a second on the end. Wow, we said Gachet would fight, he did.
It's been hold your breath all the way through. I mean, there's been battles not just at the front, we've seen a lot of those battles, but all the way through all the the four colour categories.
But look, the celebrations begin down there. Patrick Niederhausen given a workout by his pit crew because he's taken victory. All smiles, you can see even through the visor, open visor of his helmet. But well, let's take a look. Sven Muller and Patrick Niederhausen, victory by 2.6 seconds at the end of the race. Dries van Tor came here as a championship leader, and second place shared with Charles Wirtz keeps them out front. But what a charge from 11th from Lucas Aura and Maro Engel up to third place overall. Jacko Maltouet and Thierry Vermeulen, fourth for Emil Frey Racing, and Ben Green and Constable Appalainen, teammates in fifth. And then came the car that won the gold class by the smallest of margins. Lorenzo Patrese and Lorenzo Ferrari finishing it just ahead of Simon Gachet. Silver class victory to Ezekiel Perez-Companc and young Dutch racer Tom Callender. Benjamin Goethe and Tom Gamble pocketed some points for McLaren in 9th overall. Simon Riker for East Talent Racing bringing it home in 10th. But let's go down to hear our very, very happy winners. Let's hear from Sven Muller, who started, and Patrick Niederhauser brought it home.
Sven, Patrick, we've just had fireworks and they were all for you. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. We are so happy. We had a tough season so far, and finally we got the win. We worked so hard for last month. Last race we were pole position, unlucky in the race, and now finally good start and a nice maneuver from Patrick, who took us home the victory. So big thanks to the team. They worked so hard and now we get finally the win. So really thankful for that.
Patrick, you had an incredible second stint, really held off the competition and brought home a first Sprint Cup win for Porsche.
Yeah, incredible. Like Sven said, for us it was really a redemption ever since we had a difficult start into the season. Then the pole position, Nürburgring, and the accident in turn one, like after all that, it feels just great. And yeah, had a good battle with Charles. I think he was a bit unlucky with the traffic, but yeah, nice fight. Really liked it, and super, super happy, obviously, with the first win.
What a brilliant moment and an incredible race. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So that's the Pro Racing podium, beautifully colour-coded, red, blue and yellow, but it was blue that came through tonight. Blue with the yellow flutes around the side, bright in the daylight, shining in the night. Rutronic Racing taking victory, and there are not just their first trophies of the season, John, but winners' trophies. That is a real step up. And so here we are, the race will start at 2:45, and we've just seen the highlights showing the victors last night. However, this morning a decision was taken, and the winners last night, Patrick Niederhauser and Sven Muller, have dropped to third place overall in race 1 with a 5-second penalty being issued for an unsafe release during their pit stop. Take a look, the yellow and blue Porsche at a standstill. Just ahead in the pit lane is the 32 Team WRT BMW. So far so good. Sven Muller out of the car, Patrick Niederhauser taking over, waiting for the moment of release. You can see the AF Corsa Ferrari Lollipop Man in the background. His car is coming in, and this Porsche is waiting to get going, and a bang on the roof from the Lollipop Man, and he pulled into the path of the 71 Ferrari, and that was adjudged an unsafe release, and those 5 seconds added have moved them back in a race in which the top 3 were covered by just 3 seconds from first to third. So Porsche waits on longer, and out goes the national anthem ahead of the second of the 2 races at Magny-Cours. So, John, a busy, warm piece of track for the 32 cars to stand down on. In fact, there should be 31, and the number 21 Come To You Racing Aston Martin is due to be starting from pit exit. But the temperatures we had yesterday, we saw air temperatures of 30 degrees, 33 degrees, just 21, far more comfortable.
Yes, it's more comfortable, not just for the competitors, but in particular, we're going to have a quick look at the 17-turn, 4.4-kilometre Magny-Cours racetrack. And we mentioned the first sector more aerodynamic, the middle sector more technical. And then you round it out with this very tight right-left chicane on to start, finish straight. It's a difficult circuit in some respects. That's a lot of hard work. I mean, we know Lucas Auer was saying that the first sector he found much more physical than he had imagined. And then the technical centre with the curbing, you've got to learn a lot.
Well, let's go down to the grid, and Antonia has walked all the way to the back of the grid because not only have they lost the win yesterday, the 96 crew, but with a puncture, they're starting on the back row.
Patrick, it's been a difficult morning for you with the penalty coming through, and then, of course, in quali you didn't get a run out. Why was that?
Yeah, it was quite a difficult morning, as you said. Obviously, I got the news like 15 minutes before qualifying that we lost the win yesterday. Yeah, it's hard, but obviously accepting the penalty, there was a situation in the pit stop, unfortunately. But yeah, that was a tough one. And then the qualifying, obviously with all the red flags, wasn't easy for everyone. But I could have had a good shot, I think. And just right when I was on my first actually flying lap, we got a puncture on the front left. I caught a screw, and that ended our qualifying session.
But despite all the negatives from yesterday, there's so many positives to take away. You seem to have so much pace.
Yeah, the car works excellent here in Magny-Cours this weekend. So, yeah, let's see. I think we can have a good race today.
And what's your target from here? Obviously, there's a lot of cars in front of you.
Yeah, to put on a good show for everyone at home, and also to get a bit of, deep into the top 10 to get some good points for the team, and just to bring the car home in one piece. But obviously we're going to attack, that's for sure.
I'm sure you'll have great fun. Thank you very much.
Well, great fun it may be, overtaking lots of cars, but he's got to keep it tidy. And coming from the back is very, very difficult, John, on a circuit like this.
Yes, it is. I mean, in relative terms, the cars around him on the sort of the penultimate road, the sort of road 10, 9, 8, they should be easy pickings for a driver of the calibre of Patrick Niederhauser and with that Retronic Porsche. But the further he makes inroads into the field, then the more difficult it will become. And of course, you've got to be careful with track limits. We've seen many drivers here this weekend losing time or having time added to the race results because of track limit abuses.
We'll talk about change of fortune. Yesterday it was Rutronic Racing, all seemed good for them, and for Jules Gounon, we can see him sitting on the pit wall. A disastrous race. Their car started way back, I think in 27th. He got it up to 19th, set the fastest lap. He said it's been such a difficult season for Boots from VDS, and there he is with his teammate Maxi Goetz. But they hooked it up this morning, and he's put that car onto pole position, and you could finally hear Jules go and breathe out.
Yes, so there's a reason behind the car getting onto pole position, the number 9 Boots and VDS Mercedes-Benz, and that is because the team went back into the workshops, spent a long part of Saturday evening into Sunday morning changing lots and lots of elements in the car, the mechanical side, some of the aerodynamic side, and it all worked, not just by magic, it all worked because they made the right decisions at the right time, and they ended up on pole position with an impressive time, 1 minute 35.537, by far the quickest lap we've seen all through this weekend.
Well, let's head down to the grid again. We're joining the highest bronze qualifier. It's Louis Pret in Garage 59 McLaren with Antonia.
Louis, our highest sitting bronze today, obviously a great quali for you, but you have got some very good challenges behind.
Listen, the quali went really well. All season long, we've been very strong in qualifying. We've been quite unlucky, I have to say, and I just hope that we can have a clean race for once, without any contacts and without any mechanical issues, and I'm sure that we'll be able to fight up front.
Now, as we know, track position is quite important here, but you are very much in the middle of a packed field. How will you stay out of trouble?
Well, Miguel will have to survive, I guess, the two first laps. Yesterday was a bit of a chaos at the back, but it's just to keep it safe, and worst case scenario is we lose a bit of places, and it will be my job to bring it back, but just stay safe.
Best of luck, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, the Garage 59 McLarens, both of them did very well indeed. The pro car with Benjamin Goethe and Tom Gamble ended up on the front row of the grid alongside Jules Gounod, and a lot of that was really to do with the lower ambient temperature, particularly this morning. It was just hovering a little over about 10, 12 Celsius. It's warmed up now, it's up to just under 21, but that's still in a comfortable zone for the McLaren. McLaren tends not to like really, really hot, high temperatures, so they're going to be very happy, and they're going to look and think, we can certainly get a podium out of this, as long as they stay out of trouble, there's no unforced errors, and they get a good, quick, clean pit stop.
Well, looking at Maro Engel, who'll be starting third on the grid. He's second in the points, and just to give you an indication, you get 16.5 points for winning, 12 for second. So if you can win versus a rival, you gain 4.5 points. They're 6.5 points down on Dries van Tor and Charles Weerts, but importantly for them, they're starting third, and Dries and Charles are starting back in 8th position. So we could have a rotation at the top, but as we saw in the second half of yesterday's race, when Knight had fallen, Maro Engel took that 48 Winward Racing Team Mercedes and shook it by the throat and moved right forward. We just mentioned Dries van Tor. Let's hear his latest thoughts, because he's standing down on the grid with Antonio Rankin.
Dries, yesterday you showed us why you're one of the best drivers on the grid. What a brilliant battle there was.
Yeah, well, it was good fun. Car was going well. The first, let's say, half of my stint. After that, it became a bit more difficult. But I really enjoyed the battles out there. I think, yeah, it was a good stint. Yeah, I don't really know what to say about that. I mean, I just did what I get asked to do. So yeah, that's my job.
Now, of the past 7 races here, all of them have been won from first and second on the grid. How will you change that pattern?
I mean, yeah, yesterday we now won the race this morning. I mean, after an after-race penalty. But again, I mean, we were starting P8. Yesterday we started P6. The Merc who started P11 finished second. So I think, I mean, anything can happen. It's we need to do a pit stop as well. We know our crew is very good, so we just have to aim on that and think about the points and hopefully get some places at the start, and then we can maybe do the same.
It'll be great to watch. Thank you very much. Best of luck.
Yeah, it was a brilliant opening lap yesterday, John, from 6th to 4th by the opening couple of corners, 3rd further around the lap, and he kept working forward from there. But always in the mix. Another car that's going really well. This is the Gold Class Championship leader. Max Hofer will start, sharing with Luca Engstler, who's, I think, nestled away in a neighbouring commentary box at the moment for the first few laps before he heads down to the pit lane. But if people are watching this Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe sprint race for the first time, it's only a 1-hour race, so Engstler can't spend long upstairs, but he's got excellent teammate in the form of Max Hofer, and they really were in the thick of the battle yesterday, coming home very, very well placed in the Gold Cup class. And again, it's about scoring points all the time across the course of a season that really counts.
Yes, of course, being in the second row of the grid gives you that opportunity to make a break with the front row grid cars, to get away from that sort of melee of group of cars that are going to be around you. And because the field is so competitive, the gap is second between the top 20 or so cars, there's very little performance differential between those cars. So one little error, either on the part of a car you're challenging or on your own part, can see you either gain or lose positions in the blink of an eye. And around these 17 turns, Magny-Cours, 4.4 kilometres, it's just a lot of hard work.
It really is. And in fact, the Gold Class is the tightest of all. Just 5 points is the leading margin for Luca Engstler and Max Hofer. In the overall, in the Pro Class, it's 6.5 points by which Van Tor and Weerts lead. In the Bronze Class, it's 9.5 points. That's with Darren Leung and Dan Harper leading that class. But the biggest margin is in the Silver Class. Sam DeHaan and Callan Williams, 23.5 points clear. They've got to just gather a handful more points and see where it puts them. They may not need to stretch it all the way to Barcelona. But let's not get ahead of ourselves on that count. Now we're into the final minute until the cars go on around the track on a final chance to check all 17 of the corners. The formation lap ahead of 1 hour of racing. This is the second of the 2 races. This is not a day-to-night race. It's an early afternoon race here at Magny-Cours. Conditions very comfortable, stable at just under 21 degrees. Air temperature, track temperature has been sitting pretty solidly at 38 degrees.
Funny enough, the track temperature is not a lot different to where we were yesterday. Certainly, it's warmer than it was for last night's race, but not any different or much different from the qualifying we saw around this time on Saturday afternoon. But it's the air temperature that will benefit some of the cars. We've mentioned the McLaren, I'm sure 1 or 2 others, and certainly those in the cockpit will find that slightly lower ambient temperature something they will welcome.
Okay, this is radio coming from the number 7 Aston.
I'm stuck in reverse or in neutral.
Okay, try gearbox override C2 and try to go in first gear.
Oh, well, that's an absolute disaster. That's the voice of Matthias Judy. Was due to be starting from 6th place already. 2 of the Aston Martins, of the 4 Aston Martins from Come To You Racing were due to be starting from the pit lane. Right, this is the grid as it stands. Jules Gounod on pole, Tom Gamble alongside, Mercedes ahead of McLaren. Then along the second row, another Mercedes, that's Maro Engel. Leading Gold Cup class, that's Max Hofer for Team Engstler. Constable Appelin and Emil Frey Racing and Lamborghini is going very well this week. Ahead, Matthias Judy due to be starting 6th. We've just heard from him about his problems. The second, Emil Frey. Ferrari in 7th place. Charles Vier's championship leader starts 8th. Then a brilliant run in silver class for Ivan Klimenko for Sansalot Racing. Lorenzo Ferrari, Gold Cup winner last night. Gilles Magnus always in the mix. He starts 11th. Alicia Dono 12th in his AF Corsa Ferrari. Then comes Cesar Gazzo right in the battle in the silver class. And Alex Arca, they started last yesterday. Now they're 14th on the grid. Simon Gachet, expect fireworks from him. James Jakes looking for a big run from the British driver. Then Simon Reicher will start on the 9th row alongside Miguel Ramos, who leads off the bronze class. Dustin Blattner, great battle for him in the Rutronic Porsche yesterday. And Dimitri Katsaba looking to put Lamborghini on the map. Darren Lung leads the bronze class, but he's starting down in 21st alongside Jeff McKeels. Then Sam DeHaan leading the silver class, but actually starting 5th in the class in this race alongside Rob Collard. Then Gabriel Rindon and young German racer Tom Callender start on row 13 of 16. Then Andrei Mukazov for Trezor Atepto Racing and Jonathan Hui for Sky Tempesta Racing. And then we get to Stefan Denual and Dante Rapanga. I think Rapanga is starting from pit exit. Patrick Niederhauser, due to that puncture, starts 31st. Not entirely sure that Matisse Lismont will be kicking off from pit exit in the number 21 Aston Martin, because it had chassis damage this morning when 2 of the Come To You Racing Aston Martins had contact. We'll keep an eye out for that, but just reiterate, the front row is Jules Gounod, the number 9 Boutsen VDS car, and his teammate Maxi Götz is looking on with his perennial shades, looking very cool indeed. Maybe he's not feeling quite as cool as that. And Benji Goethe, his car will be starting on the outside of the front row in the hands of Tom Gamble. Will it be a McLaren taking a lead? They haven't had the lion's share of fortune this year, but I'm just starting to sense, and you think it's also down to cooler weather conditions, the Garage 59 McLaren may just produce performance we have not seen from it so far this year.
Yes, I'm saying an uplift in performance this morning in qualifying. Now, part of it undoubtedly would have been the lower ambient temperature. Track temperature was down also, but it's the ambient temperature that does seem to benefit the McLaren particularly. Now, what's going to happen when this race gets underway, you're going to be assured that Jules Gounod is going to get his elbows out going through Grand Courbe into Estoril. But Tom Gamble, if he can go side by side with the Mercedes, then he'll be on the inside as they swoop then through that long Estoril corner which leads onto the back straight. So it's all about just who gets the best jump once the lights go green, and then into turn 1.
Such a tight couple of corners. The car closer to the camera is Tom Gamble, who'll be starting on the outside of the front row. The pole sitter is Jules Gounod. So much experience. He's on the outside of the front row. And it looks as though apparently the number 21 Aston Martin indeed will not start the race. David Pittard won the drive to that. Wasn't sure it would be. In fact, fairly confident it wouldn't. But so it's in the cover. But right now, it's about how they're going to break. It was a very short throw, John, yesterday as they came out of the final corner. It would have gone about now. Only goes a similar time with about a dozen cars on the start-finish race. The rest still filtering through. But Jules Gounod has said, you know, pole position means I have to take the lead, and he's done precisely that. Second place, Tom Gamble. Oh, dearie, Max Hofer has been given a push and a shove from behind by probably Constable Appelin, and I would suggest they were starting level on the grid on the third row, but contact there, and round went Max Hofer. Oh, dearie,
big shunt
for one of the Sansalot Racing Audis. Typical case, concertinaing in action behind and inside accident, and on the exit of Estoril, I'm afraid the Santalot Racing Audi driver literally had nowhere to go, and that was Gilles Magnus, who's not the sort of driver who'd make a mistake. That was an assist, one would feel. So the safety car is going to be called there, with debris to be cleared up at the first lap. We had little pushes and shoves yesterday, but nothing that brought out the safety cars. So this one, what we do know is Jules Gounod, Tom Gamble and Maro Engel pulled off in grid formation. They're still in that formation, first, second and third. But for everybody else behind, a little bit of sorting out. But for Max Hofer, I'd like to have a look at that. It was Consta Lapalainen who gave him a push. He obviously has had a spin and is coming, bouncing his way back around. That's a car that doesn't look so. It's got flat spotty tyres, gravel in some of its orifices, perhaps.
Yeah, there's contact between the Audi and the Ferrari. That set off a train of motion. It's the right rear tyre, you can see, is cut down maybe because of the contact, maybe because of going into the gravel, but it's the Audi of Gilles Magnus who ended up outside the exit of that long right-hand corner that leads on to the backstretch. That's Estoril, and he went off pretty quickly, but by the time he got to the barriers, there's tyre barrier there, there's Protec barrier. So let's hear from that 26 Audi.
Copy, just on the TV. Are you okay? I'm absolutely okay. Is it my car? No, we are off. No. Fuck, that's a shame. Fucking Audi. Oh, sorry, guys. It was...
Well, sorry for the apologies for the rich language there, but in the heat of the moment. Yep. But I think an innocent party there. It's that constant concertinaing after an incident, people trying to find their place on the track. And if you end up on the outside, you're like a billiard ball, and if someone comes to hit you. Feel quite sad too for Max Hofer, who was clearly given a bit of an assist. He didn't want around Grand-Cours and was put in the gravel long before they even got to Estoril.
The Audi was the Santalot Racing. It was Ivan Klemenko.
Sorry, I identified the sister car.
We can just see, it's opening lap. We know that always there can be contact. Last night, ironically, everybody made it through the two curves onto the back straight without any being contacted or anybody going off. So now we've got to wait for the recovery vehicle to clear the Audi.
Well, let's take a look at the replay, John. See where it started going wrong. Tidy start from the first three runners. Jules Gounod takes the lead from Tom Gamble, from Maro Engel. It was the battle for fourth place with the Ferrari on the inside and the Audi on the outside. Push came to shove. Everybody else had to scatter. Let's take a look from the high-up angle.
I think you'll find that the Ferrari on the inside, in fact, there's contact before they even get in to Grand-Cours, but there's sort of secondary contact, and that takes the Ferrari out, also takes Max Hofer and the Audi at night. It's later around the lap. There you can see the head-on view of it, and that was a pretty speedy bit of rotation, both by the Audi and the Ferrari. Drives its way back on. At some point, it has picked up a puncture, and look, the Audi, Max Hofer gains the advantage, but by which time I think there you see that's where the contact, that's where the puncture in the Ferrari occurred. You just saw that little puff of blue smoke coming from the right rear of the Ferrari. Now watch and see where the 26 Audi is. What happens at Ivan Klemenko?
This is riding on board from, I think it's the Enel Fry Racing Ferrari of Consta Lapalainen. He's about to be involved with a clatter with Max Hofer. There's Max Hofer. You can read his sponsor's name, unfortunately going sideways in front. Then the run through that long gravel track, re-emerging. But we'll want to see what happens to the silver Audi, the Santalot Racing Audi. Why did it get pitched off the circuit? It just went across our shot. And by the time those cars rejoined, he had bounced through. But I tell you who was really fantastic. Oh, well, there you go. That was a big push and shove there.
Oh, yes.
Oh, my word. So very, very unfortunate indeed. Let's take a look again. Fantastic
contact initially between the Ferrari and Audi going in. Secondary contact. There's that little puff of blue smoke. So the puncture happened at that initial contact before the cars even entered into Grand-Cours.
Okay, I can tell you why the 26 Audi went off, because while that was happening on the right-hand side of Grand-Cours, he cut onto the grass on the left-hand side and just didn't have any traction going into Estoril. And then as the others managed to turn right for the corner, he did not. And I tell you who did a fantastic job there was Charles Weerts. As that was happening, he started 8th. He was into 4th place as those two were clashing and going off the circuit. Max Hofer being spun round by Consta Lapalainen. So Team WRT will be pleased with that. And the order as the cars go around behind the safety car is Jules Gounod leading the way. There's the broken and battered number 26 Audi being cleared very quickly indeed. So it's Jules Gounod, Tom Gamble, Maro Engel, Charles Weerts. You can see the graphic on the left-hand side. And Lorenzo Ferrari leading the gold class in 5th. Now let's...
this is a shot from the drone. There's the contact. When is it? That's the contact. There you see that puff of blue smoke just coming from the bottom rear. And then, that's okay. There's the Audi. How did it get there for the first?
Well, he ended up. He got on the grass and then just got shoveled on around, but going on
just
up the hill?
I don't know. I mean, he just didn't appear to finish the exit of the corner.
I thought he'd gone into the gravel during Estoril, midway through.
Well, almost on the exit of Estoril. So it's a strange one. I think you need to speak to Ivan Klemenko and ask him, did he have a problem? Was there a tire issue? Did he cut a tire down? That might have caused him to run so wide and unnecessarily get into the gravel. So
okay, now let's take a look in greater slow-mo this time. We're looking for the silver Audi. Bear in mind, it went wide onto the grass. Just coming up now, wait, look who goes on the grass on the left-hand side of your screen. Looking at the drone shot, there's the contact over 4th place with Charles saying thank you very much indeed. I'm going through 1, 2, 3 seconds. We see the silver Audi probably trying to avoid, yes, the car's coming across into his path. Don't think there's any contact, but did he get a puncture that manifests itself at the exit of Estoril? He's still on the track, still looking fair, still actually just gone up to 5th place, but here, John.
Okay, the only thing I can think of, by going onto the grass, he went onto a bit of, technically it's not the racetrack, but it all counts, and that may have contributed to him running wide, because you will pick up a load of rubbish on the tyres, and although the tyres are not necessarily up to full race temperature, they'll be warm enough to pick up anything. And as he was putting greater load and increasing his speed towards the exit, maybe just the front of the car didn't have any grip to enable him to hold the car in. Now, maybe if he had backed out of the throttle, that might have sort of checked the car running wide. So we're still running under full course yellow as the safety car now has been deployed. So that was a big impact for Klemenko, and the damage to the car we could see, but it's also the damage that would be onto the barriers on the outside of the corner at Grand Curve. Well, that's got to be addressed as well.
Yeah, he certainly was on the wide angle coming out of the corner, but I think he just moved into 5th place and was thinking, I've started 9th, I'm up to 5th, this is fantastic, and who knows, but he certainly was wider than most of the lines that most of the cars take at the exit of Estoril.
The point is, he'd virtually finished the exit of Estoril, and just then the car just didn't appear to continue around the line of the exit of the corner. Just started to drift, and then, of course, at the pace he was travelling at, he was probably at that stage doing 180 or so kilometres per hour. And once he was on the gravel, we saw him was hop, skip and jump like a stone skimming across water, and the inevitable. Luckily, he managed to get the car side on when it hit that tyre barrier on the exit of Estoril. The damage is severe, but if it had been a head-on incident, maybe it would have been a more concerning one. But anyway, Klemenko hopped out of the car, and he'll be back in the pits, I suspect, by now. But the car will need considerable amount of work before we see it again at a sprint in Barcelona.
Now let's take a look at another replay. The 19-year-old Ukrainian, first Syrian in GT3. Look for the silver car in the background. He goes wide, wide.
No grip. He gets onto that blue paint or whatever, and look, butts of bodywork flying off, and I mean, it's just almost undiminished speed on the gravel before he finally comes into contact with the barrier. But the car just was drifting. Now, maybe the only thing I suggest he might have thought about doing was lifting off the throttle to check that, but maybe he chose to drive through it, and the consequences are he ended up in the tyre belts.
Well, chalk it up to experience. The safety car still leading the field round as the broken 26 Santalot Racing Audi is cleared. Ivan Klemenko is fine, and sadly for his teammate Marcus Pavarud, that is the end of their race. But I guess that is chalk it up to experience. So the clock continues to tick. Now let's listen to the radio from this car, the 71 AF Corsa Ferrari.
In front is Gachet in the gold class, and in front of him, the Mercedes number 10 is for position P2 in class, Dono P1 in class.
Okay, copy, I see. Only the tires were a bit, the tires of the wall were a bit sideways. For the rest, not much.
Copy.
Okay, that was AF Corsa speaking to Alessio Dono. He started second in the silver class in terms of qualifying today in 12th. He's up to 7th place, leading the class by 4 positions on the track ahead of Cesar Gazzo. So the Italian racer going very, very well indeed, and hopefully from his sake he can put it there, because it was a season that started with promise and sort of dropped away a bit for him and Thomas Fleming, but certainly right now sitting pretty.
Yeah, and Alessio Dono is very, very quick in that Ferrari. We've seen that from previous rounds, so he's benefited from that. He's leading the silver class right now in a comfortable 7th place. He's got Gilles Magnussen, the 25 Santalot Audi, directly behind him, so that's not going to be an easy deal to work out, but he's going to look forward, because the next car up will be Thierry Vermeulen in the Emile Frey Racing Ferrari, a different entrant, but same car.
Look, and Gilles Magnus is going to be pushing really hard. He's always an attacking driver, but he's running second in the gold class, and up in 5th overall is the class leader, Lorenzo Ferrari. Took class victory last night, sharing with another Lorenzo, that's Patrese, but he is going to be very, very keen to get the move.
And that Ferrari, the number 80, sorry, the 88 Audi of Lorenzo Ferrari, they started back on the 5th row of the grid, so they were on down to 10th position, so that's a big, big gain. They've actually halved the deficit they would have had at the start of the opening lap.
So waiting for any notification about when the safety car will be brought back in, but of course the number 26 Audi did hit the tyre wall quite hard on the exit of Estoril. That might be the delay, because the car we saw being lifted a few minutes ago, hopefully that has been cleared from the gravel trap at the exit of the second corner of the lap.
Well, you can see the tyre bales on the exit of this long Estoril corner, and it was towards the very end of it where then we saw Klemenko go off the track from that blue painted part of the exit, and then just the car drifted off. And so there'll be work carried out there, and it might take another few more minutes to get this circuit ready to go back to green racing.
All right, let's also do a bit of housework for you, and it's not looking good for Come To You Racing. We heard from Matthias Drudy on the grid when his car was stuck in reverse. That has 0 laps on the board. The number 12 sister car, Dante Rapanga, that didn't start from the grid, and Mathis Lismon's car, number 21, 3 of the team's 4 cars out of the race. And here we are behind the safety car, and the only other car that's not running, of course, is even Klemenko's Santilot Racing Audi. We've looked at the replays of that. We think we've dissected it and understood what happened. For all the others, they're now starting to look for any messages about when the safety car will come in, and the driver leading the queue, Jules Gounon, will of course be looking at the light bar on top of the safety car as it leads the field around. They're still flashing the lights. He knows it's not coming in just yet, but when the lights go out, and they go out as early as half a lap before it withdraws, then he's going to know what he's got to do the restart. And I must say, John, the restart at Magny-Cours, you control it. You can't be passed before the start-finish line, but that very tight end to the lap really gives a great advantage to the race leader in this situation.
Yes, he can determine the time he wants to go, and what you most normally see is you come down the hill, and this is coming into turn 15, so you're going to enter at the Virage du Lycée, and from here onwards, if you're the race leader, you're probably going to stand on it and try and get through that sort of quick right-left chicane. It's a bit of a hip, hop, skip and a jump to get over it, but that's what Jules Gounon will be thinking about, and he'll want to stretch the advantage over Tom Gamble, albeit they're running behind the safety car. That gap as they came across the line to go on to what will be lap 7 was just under half a second, but that's a comfortable half second, because Jules Gounon, with all this experience that he has of not only leading races but winning races, he knows that that's something he will have to use. He'll have clear air all around him. He will be able to drive as he chooses in a car that has found the pace that the team had really been looking for most of this season.
So the fans in the stands, the air temperature's actually fallen below 20 degrees now, looking far more comfortable than yesterday. It was very, very hot and humid in our day into night race, but it's going to be pretty hot and humid in those cockpits because the drivers are doing what they don't want to do, which is running around at a bated pace. They want their first half of the race, their part of this 1 hour race, to be racing, and we're waiting for the signal about when that will be. But for a lot of the drivers, they'll realise that the lion's share of the real racing will be put in the hands of their teammates. We've got 14 minutes just about elapsed. We have 46 still to go in this 1 hour race, but for those that wanted to really make their mark, it's going to be a little bit frustrating.
Yeah, so we're 15 minutes, we're a quarter of a way into this race, and we've not actually had a full racing lap because immediately the safety car, the full course yellow was declared, and then the safety car was very shortly thereafter deployed. Safety car in at the end of this lap, so we're coming up to, we're on lap 7, so Jules Gounon will be tightening down the seat belts if they should need to be tightened. There's co-driver Max Gertz, sunglasses off, reading glasses on, intently looking at the scoring, timing and scoring on the TV screen. So there's the view from the 32 looking back. That's the 4th place Charles Weerts driven BMW, looking at the rear of the 48-man filter racing Mercedes. So everybody beginning to bunch up, but of course you're not allowed to overtake another car until you cross the start finish line. It almost looks as if Jules Gounon might have gone fractionally earlier than I anticipated, but he has gone, and now Tom Gamble's got to try and do the best he can to make sure that Maro Engel doesn't get the jump at him, not coming in to Grand Curb or going through Estoril, but at the far end of the circuit down into Adelaide Hairpin.
Lorenzo Ferrari running 5th, just tucked in behind Charles Weerts. 4 pro cars in the lead. The gold leader is Ferrari in 5th, then Thierry Vermeulen, then the silver leader Eliseo Dono in the number 71, red and yellow Ferrari, just the background of your shot, and tucked in behind the remaining Santalot car with Gilles Magnus on board, and then the remaining Country Racing Aston Martin going very well today in the hands of James Jakes. It's 10th place, maybe about to lose one, almost shoulder-to-shoulder contact there, and looks so coming through is Cesar Gazzo in the Boots VDS car, and James Jakes going to have to back out up at the top of the hill, and the CSA Racing Simon Gachet Gilles Magnus driven car right across their bow. Sorry, but it is Simon Gachet.
Yeah, I think James Jakes got a little bit mugged on the run out of Gulf all the way down into Adelaide to the hairpin bend and passing on the outside, trying to get round on the inside. So this is into the 180 in the heart of the 4.4 kilometre circuit, accelerating hard. It's an uphill, it's a slight incline up into the Imola chicane, a great sequence of rights and lefts, and then that leads finally into the highest part of the circuit up at Chateau d'Eau. Place that we saw the contact last night between Dan Harper and Ben Green in the Ferrari that was actually just lost the lead.
Well, I tell you, that's a brilliant restart lap from Jules Gounon. He obviously came down to this point of the circuit about a car's length ahead of Tom Gamble, but then he floored the throttle. Maybe, as you said, slightly earlier than expected from those chasing. Got a 2-length advantage by the time he came through this right-left areas now, coming up to start-finish straight. By the end of the lap, he looks the best part of, well, let's see, 1 and a bit seconds, 1.062 seconds to the good. So he's gained a car length or two. That could be absolutely crucial. Yeah. So Maxi Gertz will be going, I'm getting those glasses off, I'm going to get myself helmeted up. I'm going to be taking over surely in the second half of this race from the leading car.
Yeah, he's gained the advantage going through that opening lap once the race has got underway, and Tom Gamble has now got within half a second behind Amaro Engel. A bit of racing going on further through the field. So side by side, going through Gulf curve. Again, it's more of a curve than a corner. And down the inside, this is the battle for 5th place with Vermeulen and the Audi of Lorenzo Ferrari, and then followed by Alessio Dono. So that's a tight little group going to go into Nürburgring, and you can see that the Audi is trying to make life difficult, but Dono thinks he's going to try and elbow his way through. Got to be careful, because directly behind you got Gilles Magnus in his Audi, and he'll be sitting there waiting to pick up any pieces that might be offered up. There it is, the 25 Audi, right on the tail of the 71 AF Corsa Ferrari.
Yeah, so what happened there with here's the order. Gounon, Gamble, Engel, Weerts, marginal gap, and then the best of the rest is Thierry Vermeulen, having moved ahead of the gold class leader of Lorenzo Ferrari. I think these first 5 cars will be making their escape, because this is going to be a tight little tussle. 71 is the silver class leader, Alessio Donna. The second car in the gold class, Gilles Magnus, pulls alongside. He's got the experience. He knows this circuit so well. He's won here before. I think that's the job done, surely. Yes, it is.
Well, he had the upper ground, the high ground coming in to this tight right-hand corner. Oh, slips, a bit of dirt tracking as he exited, but he got the job done. He got alongside Alessio Donna in the Ferrari, and there was really no challenge that the Ferrari could make back, and that was a good overtake, a good racing manoeuvre by Gilles Magnus in the Audi. All began at the top of the hill, and he gained the advantage all the way down through.
Right, while everyone's pushing on really hard, a few drivers already getting a couple of warnings for exceeding track limits. Turn 17, the final corner, is one of those, and that's where Mauro Engel, who's running in a comfortable 3rd position, has been noticed. In fact, I tell you what, I'm now starting to notice is that Tom Gamble looks to my eyes as though he's starting to haul in race leader Jules Gounon, and in turn drop Mauro Engel.
It certainly looked like it coming down into Adelaide. Now, whether that was just the effect of the first car brakes and the car behind still on throttle, the key is that the lead difference is 1.1 second first to second, and the gap between second and third has actually stretched fractionally up to 7/10 of a second. It's almost academic, but nevertheless, if you've got it to your advantage, then you'll be looking forward.
Absolutely so, and for the bronze class cars, the bronze category driver is the one that's starting the race today, and what we're seeing, of course, their racing time has been reduced because they ran behind the safety car. But when they hand over to their teammates, and they'll come in as soon as they can, so starting in just over 5 minutes time, and then the pros in those lineups will propel those cars forward. So we will see some changes, and looking down the middle order, that's a really good run from Patrick Niederhauser. Remember, he started 31st position, actually 30th, because 2 cars, one in front of him, one behind him, didn't start the race, but he's up to 17th position. He's keeping it neat, John, keeping it
actually tight. He's up to 16th because he just got past Rob Collard.
So of course he has.
So there's a little battle coming down. So the 52 Ferrari makes the move on this sole out of the 4 Aston Martin. Come to you, Aston Martin team cars. Only one has actually taken the start. The number 7 we saw on the grid, it remained on the grid. Matteo Drudi was suffering from gear selection, couldn't find the gear he needed, and that car was pushed away. Sadly, I have to say that's a very competitive Aston Martin, and we're missing it.
Right, the battle for the lead in the gold class. It's 6th and 7th, and just separated by half a second or so. It's Lorenzo Ferrari, the 88 Audi, just coming into the background of your shot any second now, and tucked in behind the white Audi giving chase. That is Gilles Magny, 6th and 7th, and they're 1st and 2nd in the gold class. So really, with great company up there. 88 leading the class, going out of the corner. So it's black Audi ahead of white Audi to keep it simple in the battle for Gold Cup honours. 6th and 7th on the circuit, going well.
So there's going to be a little battle between the Audi teams. You've got Lorenzo Ferrari leading the car from Gilles Magny, so it's Fraser Attempto leading the Santa Lock car, and Lorenzo Ferrari, I think, has been very impressive here throughout the weekend. He and Lorenzo Patrese did a very good job indeed. So they are still, if you like, the junior drivers in the whole Audi family.
Absolutely so. Now, some days they say things don't go your way. Last night, the 96 Rutronic Porsche crew went away with their first Porsche Sprint Cup win. This morning they had 5 seconds added to their time. That dropped them to 3rd. Then they had a puncture, so Patrick Niederhauser started at the back. He's risen from there to 16th, but I'm just noting he's under investigation for safety car procedure. Let's hope it comes to nothing, but otherwise is that the 3 bad things altogether. But Jules Gounon really pushing on. He was 1.1 seconds clear at the end of the last lap. It looks though Tom Gamble was catching him. In fact, Gamble's fallen back by 1/10 of a second. Top 3 cars though still covered by under 2 seconds. In fact, under 1.8 seconds.
Well, you can see Max Gertz already helmeted and ready to get in. We're just 3 minutes away from the pit lane opening for those that want to make that early stop. I imagine that Jules Gounon will stay out as long as he is comfortable in the lead. He's got that fraction second, 1.2 second advantage over Tom Gamble. Here are the top speeds at turn 7. So Gounon 198 kilometers per hour, and then 71 the Ferrari, a kilometer down.
And that is the Nürburgring chicane. You go up to the Adelaide hairpin, come down the hill. It's the right-left flick. And last night we saw, what, 199, I seem to recall through there. Will anybody hit 200 today? That is the shot. Absolutely fantastic. You can see how hard the drivers have to work through there. There's Alessio Donno actually just going through shot. He's the driver who is 2nd fastest. This is a battle for Gold Cup honours. My money was always in this, going to be on the driver of the white Audi, which is Gilles Magny, but Lorenzo Ferrari is nothing if not stubborn, but that is allowing those in front to make good their escape. And I think they're going to be caught by the silver class leader. He's just closing in on them, the red and yellow AF course of Ferrari. That's Alessio Donno. 2nd in the silver cup class is another 3 positions further back in 11th. That's Cesar Gazzo, with Jeff Mashiels having a fantastic race in 3rd in class.
Alessio Donno has been overtaken by, I think, both of these, certainly the Gilles Magny Audi, but because of the pace now that Lorenzo Ferrari is running at, that's allowing Donno to come back, so maybe make it a second attack. It's an overall position as opposed to the class condition, but look, hopping over the curbing, and that's not a really great deal. Lorenzo Ferrari knows he's under pressure. You can see there the last 3 laps how much the white Audi has eaten into the advantage of the red and black one as we go through Grand Curb and now into Estrel, and expect to see Magnus close. Well, Ferrari is good on actually at the point where you're back on the throttle. He pulled maybe a few meters on the 25 Santa Lock racing car of Gilles Magny. So Lorenzo Ferrari has got a slightly different approach, but it seemed to be a very effective one.
Certainly did, and just got a bit of news from the stewards. No further action on the incident, the move for 4th place between Max Hofer and the car that gave him a clip and spun him around, Constantine. I think they felt he moved across, the Audi moved across the nose of the Ferrari. Whatever they've considered, no further action.
So that is clear, because they're watching this battle going on. Again, this is 1 lap ago. We saw the white Audi get up alongside the red and black one on the inside. Now it tries to go the long way around, and the idea is to try and get a straighter exit out of 180 degrees and then be able to pick up a little bit of speed on the climb up into this quick right left of Imola, and then ultimately up into Chateau d'Eau at the top of the circuit. So Magnus using all the tricks he's got in his book. He's not going to make a move here, but he might be hoping to line himself up to go down the inside, and we saw him do that a little earlier in the race. But the pace of these Audis is virtually identical. So will he look to go down the inside? It's easy to defend from Ferrari's point of view, and Magnus thinks the better of it. Again, taking a slightly alternate line to give himself a better exit from these this tight right-left chicane before then you come back on the start-finish straight.
Right, I ought to actually tell you, of course, Max Hofer and Constantine with their rotations, the run through the gravel at the first corner, they did rejoin. We saw them take the long run to get back on the circuit. They're 21st and 22nd of the 28 cars still going this race. But the pit window is open and the traffic is absolutely intense. And who comes in, as predicted, it's all the bronze class drivers. They'll hand over to their higher ranked teammates. it goes by the book. But how's this one going? But a little bit of a slip and a slide there for the 188. Miguel Ramos trying to resist the force that can't be resisted. That's Patrick Niederhauser, the Cicerutronic Porsche. This is the one in the Bronze Cup. Is in the pit lane, and driver change taking place there. Dustin Blattner hopping out of the 97.
And Dennis Marshall will be in behind the wheel. So as you pointed out, all the bronze are going to come in and get the pro drivers back behind the wheel. And as they all come in more or less sort of in line, I don't know who's going to be the winner and the loser. It will be about the pit stop time. So we're just waiting for those pit stops time. The bronze cars have got a minimum 52 seconds for their in-out time. So that'll be different to the silver, the gold and the pro cars.
Yeah, because those don't have any time limit on their pit stops. Rejoining just nicely there from Sky Tempest Racing. You can see that you can't get, let's say, after you, Claude, and let someone else come down the pit lane past you. You go as soon as you're told to go.
Just looking down to see 52 seconds. Some of the teams have just Dan Harper, Century Motorsport are in and out at 53.8. Even better is the Mercavos, or no, it's maybe the Palette. If it's 52.5, that's a half a second. That's a very small margin. But anyway, here is the 48 making its way in. So Maro Engel, an early stop for Maro Engel, and hand over to Maxi Gertz.
Yeah, I hadn't really expected that, but I tell you one that had come in was, it had the contact on the first lap. Constable Apalainen, his pit stop says 35.1 seconds, but of course that is not a pit stop. That was to get a fresh set of tyres, one would suggest,
yes,
after the puncture on the outlap. That's why he's fallen back so far. But the best of pit stops we saw last night, just under 40 seconds, 39.8 seconds, if my memory serves me correctly.
So Tom Gamble, it's Maro Engel is in, and it's the sister car of Tom Gamble. That's the 188. Louis Pret and Miguel Ramos have come in. So there is, I think, that's the 78. So is that Sandy Mitchell behind the wheel?
Yeah, Sandy's just taken over. Rob Collard kicked off the race. They inherited victory in the bronze class yesterday. They'd actually got in right into the mix of the battle, but with its rivals who finished first and second in class getting a 10 and 5 second penalty. Barwell Motorsport said thank you very much indeed and pocketed the bronze points last night.
So the 188 makes its way back out onto the circuit, and that then will trip the corresponder.
Okay, this is the battle in the gold class. Who's bronze class? It's the bronze class, so that's 188. And the Lamborghini holds on to that, so really good outlap from Sandy Mitchell. And as the 188 comes through, that has been where you pat your crew on the back because you won that in the stops. And Louis Pret, we heard from him on the grid, he's got to chase on now.
Yeah, Sandy Mitchell didn't leave an awful lot on the table as he made that twist from coming through Grand Curb into Estoril. The back of the Lamborghini looked a little bit unstable, but he carried the momentum, the speed. So waiting to see, this is the 159.
This is Tom Gamble's car, stopping bang on the spot.
So Charles Weerts, likewise in the 32 BMW, has come in, so the second and third. So there is the right rear change for the 159. And there's somewhere further down the pit lane will be well, maybe it's not us, maybe it's behind the McLaren. So who's going to be quicker in and out? Will Weerts gain the advantage, or will it be Dries van Voor taking over from Weerts? But on that last lap, out of interest, Patrick Niederhauser set the fastest sector times in Sector 1, but more importantly, fastest overall lap of the race on lap 15.
Yeah,
so
but
now he's breaking clear from those around him. He is making strong progress.
Yeah, he was definitely held back by, he was running with all the bronze competitors, and there aren't that many places. You need a good speed advantage to get past them, but I think he's been cautious. That's good. Half a dozen cars still to come into the pits, including Jules Gounod, who was delighted to start from pole. He's controlled this race thus far through the safety car period, but it's those who've rejoined where the order is looking interesting. There's Lucas Auer coming up with Dries van Tor behind him, pushing on up the hill there in the order they were before the pit stop, which is to say the BMW behind, and it remains there, but we'll see what Dries can do. But Jules Gounod pushing on around the track, his sister car there from Boots and VDS already on Panis at the wheel, but will he come in this time around? Yes, he will. Jules Gounod comes in from the lead of the race, bang on time.
But they've come in literally halfway through the race, so again, Gounod, I thought, might have been kept in the car a little bit longer, but they've chosen to do it this way. Again, it's a lot of when you come in is part of it. More important is when do you go back out, and now you're going to get back out of that magical gap. Nobody directly ahead of you, but more importantly, nobody going to run you down on your outlap. So there is the 48, which is, so that was, yes, let's just take Lucas Auer has taken over.
Yeah, well, I think the team has worked out where the gap in the traffic is going to be, because I would have kept Jules Gounon out as long as I possibly could. But they found something with this car. They really had their heads in their hands in despair. Nothing they did seemed to go right. But this morning, they hooked it up. Yesterday, they qualified right at the back. They changed the car, and it worked. But he's come out ahead of Lucas Auer, so they're still into the lead of the race. And behind Auer, there's a bit more of a gap. And then Dries van Tor coming through. There's Dries. Bear in mind, his car, sorry, not Dries, sorry, Charles Weert started 8th, got it up to 4th. Dries running in, I think, 4th.
Tom Gamble had been running in 2nd before he came in to hand the car over to Benjamin Goethe. That's the McLaren, Garage 59. But their pit stop was a slow. Whoa, whoa! Now, is that a puncture or is that bodywork rubbing? That is a very, very smoky right front tire, and that is Aurélien Panis. So what has caused that? Is that a tire that's been cut or deflating? Or is it a bodywork rub on the sidewall of the tyre as a consequence of maybe contact with another car? But that's not going to be a healthy situation for the number 10 Mercedes right now, because if that continues to rub, it will damage the tyre.
Most certainly will. And César Gazot started that car. It's running very nicely in class, but a new tyre getting prepared for that. And wow, Lucas Auer's really starting to fly.
I'm just going to point out, Lucas Auer is flying. He's just set the fastest race lap by about 0.3 of a second. And he is currently in 8th position. Dries van Tor is behind. So that's a change in overall position.
Right, Mercedes seemed to be nowhere, but in the race yesterday, they started to come good, and we had, you know, gaining from 10th up to 3rd, and then eventually moved up to 2nd with the race leader. Race winners being given a 5-second penalty is this car, the car we're riding with. 48 Winwood Racing Mercedes, and the driver who's taken it over, Lucas Auer, all over the tail of Maxi Goetz, who's trying to settle down to his time. That's why they brought him in, Jules Gounon, slightly earlier than we thought he might have come in, and they made sure they have track lead. But right now, can this lap be a good one? And can we still have Lucas Auer behind Maxi Goetz ahead, or will they swap around?
Sven Müller behind the wheel of the 96 Rotronic Porsche. Patrick Niederhauser did an excellent stint to bring that car up into the top 10, or just outside the top 10. And now it'll be the run to the checkered flag to see whether the 96 can, you know, get anything out of an afternoon which they thought when they went to bed last night, well, we're looking good, we're going to be in a healthy position, even though they had lost the overall victory because of a penalty.
This battle is not 1st and 2nd and 3rd on the track, because 2 drivers are still ahead of them. Gilles Magnus, who's leading the Gold Cup, has not pitted, and neither has Silver Class leader Alessio Donno. But once they've done so, one would expect we will have Maxi Goetz in the lead of the race, Lucas Auer 2nd and Dries van Tor 3rd. So in comes 25, Gilles Magnus. We've still got time for anyone else who fancies, but Alessio Donno's decided he is pitting as well. The whole field that has required to pit has now at least entered the pit lane, the last 2 doing so right now.
Yeah, they had a little, they may have just had a one more lap available, but it was too marginal, so they brought them in, and that was, I think, the right decision. So here we see the number 9, and that's Jules Gounon, Max Goetz, and directly behind it is the 48. So it's going to be a battle between these 2 cars. Ultimately, who's going to take the checkered flag?
Yeah, and tucked in behind them, Dries van Tor, not out of the picture at all. In fact, closing on the pair of them. So the first 3 cars, they're still listed as 3rd, 4th and 5th, but with the 2 cars having just pitted late on, Gilles Magnus and Alessio Donno, this is a chance for the top 3 to make their break. Looking for the gap behind, it goes back nearly 8 seconds to Lorenzo Patrese in 4th overall.
This is almost a reverse of what we saw last night. Last night, the 48 Mercedes, looking directly forward to the back of that car, was chasing the 32. So down the inside, oh, that was real. Well, there was a little bit of contact, maybe say a little bit more than a little bit of contact, and they're still side by side, and they're going to juke it out all the way down into the Nürburgring, quick right, left, and, well, the person who's going to be sitting watching all this, loving it, is Dries van Tor. He's going to think if these 2 guys want to go out and take the gloves off, bit of sort of real-world boxing between these 2 Mercedes drivers, I could be the beneficiary, because they're going to do damage to one or other car.
He certainly could. You can imagine the stewards' rooms, they've taken the caps off their pen to note down this lap, because certainly it's robust, but it's fantastic GT racing, and a mistake there from Maxi Goetz, too deep into the Imola chicane, and trying to go around the outside, but there isn't really much of an outside for Dries van Tor, but he should get into 2nd place. He may lose a little bit of paint, but Maxi Goetz, in the space of 1.5 corners, has gone from 1st back to 3rd. It's that tight, covered by a 2nd.
So now The BMW trying to find a way past Lucas Auer down into, and a little love tap just coming in. Can Max Gertz get back again? Yes, he has. That contact that we saw from the BMW of Dries van Thor caused him to lose. Max Gertz was right on his toes and saw what was going on. He's back into second place. Dries van Thor, who did all the hard yards. Look at the look on the face of Jules Gounon.
Best not to, I think, at the moment. So the driver who actually did the bit of rubbing early on, Lucas Auer, is the one that's not only got into the lead, but he's now pulled clear. He's a good second, about a second clear. But can Maxi Gertz settle down in second place? But he's certainly going to be pushed by Dries van Thor. We've got plenty of time left in this race, 24.5 minutes, but a margin that's as big as any lead has been in the race thus far. Of course, we had the safety car period. Oh, but there's a move from Dries van Thor. When's the moment? The moment is now.
Yeah, but that was an aggressive block coming from Max Gertz. I mean, Van Thor was committed to go down the inside, and then the Mercedes really did block out that opportunity, and it resulted in Van Thor having to overrun. And well, these two guys are not giving each other much favour, and in the process of doing so, they're allowing Lucas Auer to basically escape up the road. He's running in clean, clear air. He's not going to be concerned about what's going on behind him, because that battle is all about second place. They're not thinking about trying to get ahead of the race-leading car right now.
Right, before the pit stops, we had the Garage 59 McLaren, Tom Gamble, running in second place from where he started this race. Slowest pit stop, dropped them back to fifth, and he's got to catch Lorenzo Patrese, who's taken over the 88 Audi from Trezor Attempter Racing. That's holding down fourth place to lead the Gold Cup. And on pace, Benjamin Goethe ought to be able to pick him off, but he's got to choose his moment. But all along, the top three cars are getting clear.
You can see the difference in lap times over the last 3 laps, how much Dan Van Thor was can be taking out. So there we go, through once again. So Mercedes second, BMW third. Watch what Dries van Thor is going to do as he comes into, first of all, the Grand Curve. And let's get a view just of the respective pace of the BMW versus the Mercedes. Not a lot to pick and choose as they enter Grand Curve. It'll be on the exit where the real truth will be told. And then again, we saw Van Thor picking up some aero benefits as they come through Gulf, and now the run down into Adelaide. Closing. It's not sufficient, but he might have a look down the inside again. But will Gertz? Yes, he does. He goes defensive. And this time Van Thor has climbed over the curb on the inside at Adelaide, and finally he's made it through. And I think that's his almost confirmed second place.
I think it has. And just a couple of laps ago, delight and the other thing, that called despair.
You think you've got to see Psycho in the movies? That's shocking.
It was Nightmare on Elm Street, John. But the number 9 Mercedes, remember a lap and a half ago, side by side in the Nürburgring chicane and ran off the circuit. Maxi Gertz being challenged by Lucas Auer. He's been pinged there, not pinged, noticed for exceeding track limits. And time penalty for cars 78 and 96 for overtaking under the safety car. The pertinent one there most certainly is 96. It's the Rutronic Porsche that won last night's race and then had the 5-second penalty, drop back to third. So they're going to fall down the order. And 78 is the other car that's been notified of the offence. That's the Barwell Motorsport Lamborghini that won the bronze class last night and again is actually leading the class today. They both have got a 10-second time penalty to be added at the end of the race. Sandy Mitchell's only got to do one thing. That's fine, 10 seconds, so he can continue towards a double bronze.
Everyone knows you're not allowed to overtake in the safety car context until you cross the start-finish line. Now, there can be circumstances where you trip over somebody and that's almost a force majeure situation. We don't know in detail why those two cars were pinged for overtaking before the start-finish line. But anyway, there is the battle, or what was the battle for second place. And it's now been consolidated in favour of Dries van Thor. He is now going to be chasing Lucas Auer in the lead 48 Mercedes coming down into Adelaide. And the last lap between these two was fractionally. There's a review of what we saw earlier. So Lucas Auer getting through up the inside of the number 9. And Dries van Thor, look, side by side. Now, these two Mercedes drivers, both centrally contracted drivers, you'd think they were driving for rival brands, let alone for Mercedes.
Track limits, there we are from Maxi Gertz back into the lead of the race. So the first marker was put down by Lucas Auer in the yellow and green Mercedes. At this point he's back in second place, but John, they're far from finished. Then Maxi Gertz runs wide. Lucas Auer says, thank you very much, I'll take the lead. And Dries van Thor thinks, I might be able to get into second place. Would he, would not? Yes, no. Round the outside, he made it stick at Chateau d'Eau.
That all began on the exit of Nürburgring, out of the 180 degrees. And, again, look how aggressive that blocking coming down into Adelaide was from the number 9 Mercedes. And Dries van Thor said, I'm having none of that. I'm going to hold my ground. Sandy Mitchell in the Lamborghini, the Barwell entered Lamborghini. He's got a penalty. But nonetheless, his natural pace will see that car move forward.
Well, classic scrapping here, and again the Adelaide hairpin, just a place where so much action happens. But Dries van Tor was not taking no for an answer. And let's run through the classes. Lorenzo Petresi leads the gold class. And here are all the bronzes together. Sandy Mitchell's at the front of their group, but in behind the McLaren of Louis Pret, Dennis Marshall in the blue and yellow, or yellow and blue Porsche in third in class. Ugo de Wilde, that's the Imperiale Lamborghini, and tucked on his tail, Dan Harper. Expect progress from him. Bear in mind he qualified second yesterday. He's sitting in 24th position. He leads the Bronze Cup with his teammate Darren Lung. His job is to pass these cars.
Yeah, the BMW.
Or go over the top of them.
I spoke to some of the BMW folk, let's put it that way, in the pits, and I said, it looked to me last night that the 991 BMW of Dan Harper was probably the quicker of the two, the WRT cars. And, well, you don't know, we don't. But one of the things they pointed out was that the 991, particularly coming through that chicane onto start-finish straight, seemed to be able to attack the curbing more aggressively and seemed to regain control when it came back onto the racetrack. So maybe there are small differences in between the damping, the suspension, the springs, or whatever. And I'd expect to see Dan Harper relatively quickly getting past the Lamborghini directly ahead of him. But again, it's not going to be a walk in the park. He'll have to choose his moment, and once he sets out on it, execute it in one clean move.
Well, I'm afraid things go bad to worse, because 96, we mentioned the Rutronic Porsche that has got itself from the back of the grid. Sven Muller's now up in 11th. That has gone on from 10 seconds added to its time at the end of the race. It's now got a black and white warning flag for exceeding track limits. They've sort of used up all their jokers, I think you could say, and one more offence, and that will be that, I'm afraid, for them. Right, front of the field, 1.3 seconds between first and second. The bronze group we're looking at now is having just a wonderful crap. That's a scrap. Second, third, there they are, nose to tail. Fourth and fifth tucked in behind, also nose to tail. But escaping at the front of the field is Sandy Mitchell, but he has a 10-second penalty he needs to manage to reduce. Let's take a look at top speeds, and it's Dan Harper who's just taken over. We look at him now, 258 kph, better than Dries van Tor, who's running in second place. Well, there we are,
I'll
John.
tell you what, BMW have got it stitched up when it comes to overall top speeds. They're in the top three. So again, Harper looking to make a move on the Lamborghini, but just couldn't quite get it done. So here's now their opportunity. So the Lamborghini settles down well coming through the Estoril curve, and Dan Harper didn't gain anything of any note coming through the exit. So now it's the rundown. There will be some small benefits from the aerodynamic, the Lamborghini pushing the air in front of the BMW. And you can see just getting on the brakes, the brake lights come on. But again, the BMW wasn't close enough to think for Dan Harper to make a move.
Right, change of place near the front of the field is just a few places behind this scrap. The 88, Lorenzo Petresi holding down fourth place. Benjamin Goether on his tail at second and a bit back to Ricardo Feller, who's got the number 99. Trezor Attempto racing to just the background of the shot there. But behind them, Lucas Legere, the CSA racing Audi, has just got ahead of Paul Everard. So change of position for second and third in the Gold Cup grouping.
So Lorenzo Petresi comes through running in fourth place. Benjamin Goether was 0.6 of a second behind the final lap. And what is it now? It is up to 0.8 of a second. In the meantime, Lucas Legere has found a way past Paul Everard, so that puts his gold Audi up ahead of the number 25 of Paul Everard.
Yeah, and they're running ahead of the Pro combination, which Giacomo Altoi and the number 69 Emil Frey Racing Ferrari. So Emil Frey was all looking good yesterday. Today, not quite the case, because the sister car that was on pole yesterday with Ben Green setting that time has just gained a position ahead, moving up to 15th ahead of Callan Williams. But it's a real fight back for them. They've got the pace, but they haven't got track position.
Lead silver car, Tom Fleming, in 10th place. He's got Sven Miller all over the back of him. That's a Pro car. The next car up will then be Aurelian Panis in the number 10 PDS Mercedes, and he is just under 3 seconds behind this red and yellow Ferrari.
Right, there's been contact by these two cars, and it's been noted, bear in mind, 96 is one of these that seems to be collecting a little bit of every sort of penalty that's going today, but it's been driven beautifully all weekend. But there has been contact between these two cars, the Ferrari with Thomas Fleming and the Rutronic Porsche with Sven Muller. At the moment though, Fleming's just got a little bit of an advantage, maybe a bit of breathing space. Quarter of an hour remains in this 1 hour race.
Yes, he has. I mean, the gap's half a second when they came across the stripe, but somewhat irrelevant. As we see, this is Aurelian Panis in his Butson VDS Mercedes. He is running second in silver. But whether we can see any way for the Sven Muller Porsche to get ahead of Fleming, and that would then put the silver lead car and the silver second place car sort of more or less in the same sort of hand, the same breath.
Right, this is second place. This is Dries van Tor. We're riding on board his Team WRT BMW. Second place, started the lap just under 0.8 of a second down the race leading Mercedes of Lucas Auer. Looks so that margin hasn't come down very much at all. Mauro Engel looks on. His car is leading the race, but now up into the Adelaide hairpin, and maybe just again under braking air. Every lap there's been a marginal gain from the driver in second place. The championship leader, Dries van Tor. So much success. One here in 20, one here in 21, one here again last night. Didn't know it at the time, thought he'd taken second place, but as it is, came into this race 6.5 points ahead of the car that is leading at the moment. And if they stay as they are, John, that margin after this race will come down to just 2 points back to where they arrived at Magny-Cours.
That's what we want. But Dries van Tor over the previous 3 laps has taken about half a second out of the advantage that the race leader has got. And that's hard work. I mean, Dries van Tor is doing all he can do. All the tools in the box that he's got in the BMW, he's using them all to maximum effect. But Lucas Auer in that clear air looks a lot more comfortable than if he was fighting maybe slightly further through the field. He's not having to catch and overtake anybody, and those that he may do, we've only got 13.5 minutes of this race to go. Whether he'll catch up to the tail enders, the gap coming across the start-finish line this time was 0.7 of a second, down to half a second. So Van Tor is nibbling away at the advantage. The Mercedes looks very good coming through Grand Curb. This is where we see it, the whole thing beginning. This is the curbing, turn 16, turn 17. And I think Van Tor is going to take maybe a little bit more of the curb on the inside. Just watching. No, it looks probably about both are taking roughly the same. Some cars are a little bit more aggressive. Now that looks closer to me than it was when they came across start-finish line.
Yeah, it came down by 0.2 of a second last time. It's down to about 0.2 of a second. And Lucas Auer surprised us, John, on Friday when he mentioned this is his first visit to Magny-Cours circuit. But Dries van Tor has a lot, not just of experience here, but race-winning experience here. But it's going to be a long, hot run to the finish. 12.5 minutes remain in this race, and Dries van Tor is going to eke every bit of pressure he possibly can produce to unsettle the Austrian.
I don't know where he found the time, but he certainly took considerable amount of time. There you can see, well, 0.2 on the last lap, just a fraction of a second on the best. Nevertheless, it's sort of ebbing and flowing again. The gap is stretched fractionally as they come up to Chateau d'Eau, and then accelerating off, trying to be careful not to exceed track limits. And what's going on here, that's the Sam Dahan, I think, number 30 BMW. Just looking for timing and scoring.
Oh yeah, in 1, 2, 4th place in
Callan
class.
Williams behind the wheel, it is Callan Williams.
Well, he just gained a place. He just moved ahead of the car he's challenging, which is Sean Hudspeth. So he's got ahead of the Ferrari. That moves him up into 3rd place. And bear in mind, this was leading the bronze class, though. There's the Lambo. That's Sandy Mitchell, but he does have that 10 seconds to be added to his time at the end of the race.
Mistake. Was there a contact between who was following the Lamborghini? I'm trying to think who it was.
It was Ugo de Wilde, had Dan Harper tucked in behind. This is the bronze battle. It's absolutely fearsome. In the middle is Tom Callender. You can see the black and white Mad Panda Motorsport Mercedes. They were silver class winners last night and having to work very, very hard indeed. But it's Ezekiel Perez Compact who's taken over the second half of the race. He's got his hands very full indeed. 1, 2, 3. He's 5th in the Silver Cup class, but it looks though a few positions could be gained before the race is over, because up in front it's very, very tight indeed. The Aston Martin of Sebastian Oegaard making his Sprint Cup debut in the thick of the battle as well. Classic racing.
That was a good overtake to get ahead of the Ferrari, albeit maybe the Ferrari wasn't the quickest of that group of cars, but nonetheless, doing anything going into Grand Curve was easy. So Sandy Mitchell now in the Lamborghini, trying to gain some kind of advantage coming down. Look at the cars, almost 2 abreast coming down into the braking zones.
You could be forgiven thinking this was the first couple of laps of the race, and Max Hofer had handed over to Luca Engstler, and unfortunately the last few corners have been really bad news for Sandy Mitchell, because he's got monstered. He was trying to put traffic between him and those coming through, but Dennis Marshall is right alongside. A fantastic view through from the drone going down through the Nürburgring S into 180 degree, the corner at the bottom of the infield.
Sandy Mitchell was just about off track going into that Nürburgring chicane. Retains the advantage there. You can see Dennis Marshall has taken out, well, 8 or just over a second in the last 3 laps. So he in the Porsche is on a big charge, and Sandy Mitchell has had to do a lot to keep the Porsche from being able to find a way around it.
Well, the bronze group, we thought Sandy Mitchell would pull clear, but I didn't think he was going to find 10 seconds, but he's having to find 10 tenths of a second because it's so tight behind. This is riding the third car in class. Taking a look, it's Louis Pret's McLaren.
Indeed.
He's right in the mix here, and they started in very good position in the bronze class. In fact, leading the bronze class on the grid, but it's been a wonderful battle. This is why these drivers go racing to race, and that's precisely what they're doing here.
What we're seeing is a lot of racing here this afternoon, all the way through all the various categories. There are our top 3 bronze cars. Sandy Mitchell, Dennis Marshall and Louis Pret in the number 155. McLaren, that's the third of those cars just going into Estoril.
But the time is running out. We're into the final 10 minutes. This 1 hour race for anybody to make the move. But the racing is so close here. They know that if there's someone in behind and they make an overtaking manoeuvre and get it wrong, they will lose a position. Right, let's run through. It's Lucas Auer leading the race by just over half a second from Dries van Toor. Maxi Goetz in third place, not able to do anything about the Mercedes, the BMW in front of him, or the Mercedes that's leading the race. Gold Cup being led by Lorenzo Petresi in his Audi for Trezor Attempto Racing. He's got a bit of breathing space. He's got 2 cars. He's got Benjamin Goetter's McLaren, Ricardo Feller's Audi between him and the next car in the gold class, which is the CSA Audi. But in the bronze class, it's nip and it's tongue. There's just been a place change there. Dennis Marshall getting finally past Sandy Mitchell's Lamborghini.
Right, this group of cars really, I mean, it's getting the elbows out. So listen, 78.
He did put me in the chicane yesterday. Copy. No problem so far.
Okay, that's Sandy Mitchell. He felt aggrieved yesterday, and same again today in the Barwell Motorsport Lamborghini. He has just lost the class lead, the bronze class, and he said, same driver, same offence. But anyhow, heat of battle. What's left on the clock? 8 minutes precisely.
So Sandy Mitchell has got a little bit of attention from the McLaren directly behind him as well. So having lost the position, he's also going to be under threat. Look at the cars on the left-hand side of the racetrack. One of them was the 90 Mad Panda Motorsport coming in to Estoril. So racing cars using the very narrowest of lines coming into turn 1 to be defensive. The Porsche gets up alongside the Audi, and that was a relatively easy pass, all because of how those 2 cars used the inside of the track, but disadvantaged themselves as they came through the exit of Estoril.
Yeah, and what's happened the last couple of laps has been 2 places gained by Dennis Marshall, the yellow and blue Mercedes. Right now he's got Ezekiel Perez compact right across his nose, but he's right on his tail, trying to fight back, trying to right the wrong is Luca Engstler, the red, white and blue Audi just in the middle of your shot, and he's got Sandy Mitchell trying to recover on his tail in the Lamborghini, and behind the 188 McLaren trying to get in the action as well. That's Louis Pret going through the Nürburgring chicane, and in behind Dan Harper trying to catch all of them. And taking great chunks of time out of them as well.
Look, time's running out. They've only got 7 minutes. The second half of the race has gone by so quickly, and that's because the focus has been on so many battles all the way from the lead, all the way down through the field in the various categories. Got the silver category. Sven Muller, by the way, just manages to get ahead of Tom Fleming. It's irrelevant. Fleming's leading the silver category. Muller is in the pro category. He is now in 10th position.
Yeah, Fleming can afford to go quite easy the final few laps, but look how much the last 2 laps Louis Pret. Let's go back to number 78 radio.
Copy, I'm going to the track limit. But I think there was pushed there. Copy, 3 track limits.
Okay, that was the message to Sandy Mitchell about trying to let him know the track limits warnings are mounting up for some of his rivals, so he's keeping it, but he's got track limits rivals as well. John?
I mean, that's aggressive. Look at Engstler, very aggressive defence coming onto pit straight, and I think Sandy Mitchell is not going to take that lying down. So, and again, watch up the inside. The McLaren gets up alongside because the focus is between the Lamborghini and the Audi, resulted in McLaren getting a sort of almost a free pass to make its way up through. I mean, that was absolutely for Louis Pret a sort of a gift.
Well, looks like it's 2 places gained, carrying more momentum, but how's the braking going to shake up? He's on the outside. Dan Harper, well, he's never shy of a battle. He's joining. Look at the red, gold and black BMW in the mix as well. And Sandy Mitchell fighting back. Louis Pret will going, well, I've gained 2 positions, but if I don't watch it, I will lose 2. Fantastic battling in the bronze class. And in the middle, Luca Engstler, he's not backing out, but Louis Pret, it's been a fantastic couple of laps for him. He was on the tail of that group and he's gained 3 places, and but he's going to get a rub.
He's getting more than a rub because he was slightly wide coming into the 180, and that's put the Audi back into the pound seat. And in that mix, we've got Dan Harper. We saw how Dan was using all the benefits that his BMW was offering him, and he's looking to find a way around Sandy Mitchell as the Audi and the McLaren fight. I mean, it's just like They keep using the ferrets in a sack.
Well, meanwhile, I'm keeping a look at other screens as well. We can tell you Lucas Auer continues to lead, but only by 0.65 of a second from Dries van Tor. But the driver of the third place car, Maxi Gertz, has got a final warning for exceeding track limits. He's 7 and a bit seconds down from that lead battle. He's nearly 3.5 seconds ahead of Gold Cup leader Lorenzo Petresi. But any penalty could drop him off the podium. So again, he's got to keep it clean for the next 4.5 minutes. We heard Barwell Motorsport letting Sandy Mitchell know that he was getting close to final limits on the 78 Lamborghini, just flashing into the first corner there.
The irony is Engler and the Audi is in a different category to those behind. So, I mean, what we're seeing is a battle for overall position. It's not relevant to the battle that's going on in the bronze category. In that category, you've got from 21st all the way down to 28. They are all bronze runners.
Now another driver who's worked his way forward is Ricardo Fellow, got up to 6th place in the 99 Tracer attempt to Audi. He is under investigation for contact. The number 85 Lamborghini's had a couple of spins and he may have been part of one of those. So I think the final results may take a short while to be released at the end of this race. But we very nearly are at the end of this race. It's allotted an hour and we've only got 4 minutes remaining. But still the Bronze Cup battle is beguiling. It's just, you cannot drag your eyes away from it.
Well, Dan Harper a little bit wide on the entry into the 180. Maybe he's looking for that late cut back at the exit again to straighten the BMW up, to give him that little bit of additional drive off the corner. So he's been sort of snookered a bit by the pace of the Lamborghini, and that's sort of these 5 cars, albeit most of them are bronze, but one in the lead of that group is in a gold category. So Harper again using what he's got, trying to find a way to get on terms with Sandy Mitchell, who's doing a sterling job in defence.
Well, talking of the gold category, Paul Evrard was very well placed in that. He's still running in third, but he's had a spin last time out at turn 8, which is the 180. And if you spin there, it's normally because someone else has helped assist you around. But let's the front end of the race, it's 0.7 of a second. First through to second, so with every lap, Lucas Auer is not being devoured by Dries van Tor. Maybe Dries has settled for second place. Hold on, it's Dries van Tor. He never settles for second place, so he continues to press on in second.
So the drone gives us the precise view of the gaps between the respective cars, and actually seeing it from the drone's perspective, you can see the gaps are much bigger than it looks when you see that ground level camera picking them up as they come out of Grand Curve, out of Estoril.
Up the back straight they go. This is the Adelaide hairpin. It doubles them back. It takes them right and right again down the slope. And the next, there's a little kink, and then we get to the best corner. For me, from a camera angle point of view, it's this one. It's turn 7. It's the downhill Nürburgring chicane. Some clout the curves. In fact, they all clout the curves. It's a question of how they get back to terra firma. Then you start turning left and left a little bit more. And running wide was Dan Harper down at the bottom of the slope. But he hooks it back up. But he's being really pushed very hard indeed by Stephen Paulette in the Porsche.
Yes, and that's not the first time Dan Harper has taken that line. Now, whether he's beginning to struggle with the right front tire, maybe beginning to give up, he can't get the nose to turn in. But I don't know whether that's his conscious decision to do so. And then to get the best sort of speed off the 180 degree, it's opening up the door to the 44 running behind you, and that's not something you really would need to do. Stephen Paulette will be operating and using that, if he can, to get himself the nose alongside the 991 BMW. And, well, oh, look at the BMW clambering over the curbs in its pursuit of the McLaren.
Yeah, well, it looked for a second as though it was going to come down on the tail of Sandy Mitchell's Lamborghini, but the class is being led by the car that separated itself from the others. It's Dennis Marshall in 17th place leading the Bronze Club, but 21st downwards is Louis Pret, Sandy Mitchell, Dan Harper, Stephen Paulette, almost nose to tail.
So Harper again looked good in the middle part of Estoril, but Sandy Mitchell seems to have enough drive there. You can see the gaps were how much, well, 0.3 of a second 3 laps ago. Coming down into Adelaide, almost nose to tail as close as you really need to be. So it's the acceleration off Adelaide, and then this run down as we go back to these 2 leaders.
Yep, into the final minute of the race. They've got one more about to start the final lap of the race, and the margin was 0.761 of a second. 0.903, and maybe that tiny little gain there from Lucas Auer to take it out to 9/10 of a second will be enough to keep Dries Van Tor behind him. Van Tor inherited victory last night with Charles Weerts. More to the point, they inherited it this morning when the 96 Rutronic Racing Porsche was given a 5-second penalty. But these are the cars that were finished second and third, or third and second, because it was the 48 Mercedes that leads tonight's race, finished third last night, promoted to second, and the car that finished second, promoted to first, is right behind. Yeah, it looks like this order will not change now.
No, on the last number of laps, you see that the BMW was not getting green or purple sectors, so one might think that, you know, they've both run the race as best they can. The lead is being consolidated by Lucas Auer. It's going to be the battles really in the bronze category that's going to be the highlight of the finish of this race.
Yeah, and the Gold Cup is being dominated by the team that won it the second of the two races at Hockenheim. The first of the races here is Lorenzo Patrese at the wheel, and his teammate Lorenzo Ferrari will be celebrating the Silver Cup class. It's AF Corsa with their Ferrari all the way into the top 10. Thomas Fleming building on the work of Alicia O'Donnell. In the bronze class at the moment, it's Dennis Marshall. I think he's safe within that mix, but behind second place in the bronze class, well, it's anybody's guess, but Louis Pred is holding it down on this, the final lap. And here is the bronze class leader. Dennis Marshall worked so hard. He got past some drivers in the higher classes, the gold and silver classes. Ezekiel Perez Companc was picked off in the silver class car, and Luca Engster as well. But the final couple of corners, and it is going to be victory for the 48 Mercedes of Team Winwood Racing with Man Filter. Victory for Lucas Auer and his teammate Mauro Engel. Whether it's a second or half a second, it matters not. You can see the joy. Mauro Engel delighted down in the garage. That means the championship advantage went out to 6.5 points with last night's race, and it's come back down to 2 again. So they'll go to the final 2 races in the 12th and 13th of October at Barcelona with next to nothing between them. And who else is going to come through? The next class winner will be Lorenzo Patrese, 4th place, really meritorious to win the Gold Cup. And then we've just seen the AF Corsa Ferrari, 10th place, Thomas Fleming, there he is, taking the first corner at a bated pace. And
that is the winner of the silver category.
Exactly, so we're just waiting for the car that's going to come through and win the bronze class. And here it is, right here, right now. Car 97 will come round in 17th position overall, just behind Sebastian Ergaard's Aston Martin. But that is good for bronze class victory for Dennis Marshall and his teammate Dustin Blattner. They were really good last night, really good again. But outright victory for Lucas Auer and the man doing all the celebrating. That's Mauro Engel. They're still pretty pleased. Second place, Vincent Vos, boss of the second place car of Team WRT, Charles Weerts in shot, and Dries Van Tor again. Another amazing attacking drive. Didn't quite produce victory today, but it's points in the pot.
Yeah, that's the key, is just keep scoring points, just clocking those points up. Today the advantage went to the 48 Mercedes. Good job, first of all in qualifying, and then Mauro Engel is strong using that advantage he had by being, where was he started? He started on the second row of the grid directly behind pole sitter Jules Gounod and Max Goetz. But that was the Mercedes of the two that were on the front 2 rows of the grid that eventually came through, and a victory for Lucas Auer and Mauro Engel.
Well, some cracking racing there from start to the finish. We had the safety car period, and glad to say that Ivan Klemenko is completely fine. But really hats off, I must say, the last few races for Trésor Attempto Racing in the Gold Cup class. 3 class wins on the trot and 4th overall today for Lorenzo Ferrari and Lorenzo Patrese, who is bringing it home. That's been impeccable.
That is a very impressive result from the 2 young Italian drivers. And just running on the grass. Let's hear the radio.
Yeah, good time to use it. So well done to everyone. That's a great way to win the weekend. Out on top.
Well, that was the voice of Thomas Fleming, who came home in 9th place overall, gained a position in the final couple of laps, and I think there may be some time penalties being added later on. But Lucas Auer and Dries Van Tor, 1st and 2nd, they had a 10-second advantage over Maxi Goetz in 3rd place, but it was tight from start to finish. They're going to be, the temperatures weren't as hot as they were in last night's race, but the race action was just extraordinary. You could hardly drag your eyes away from the track. Something was happening at every corner on every lap.
A much more intense race from front to tail than we saw last night. Nighttime racing, of course, a lot different. Some drivers are more comfortable than others in the nighttime hours, but today that was a real gloves-off battle all the way through the field, and there was some real tough passes made both into Adelaide and through into the Nürburgring chicane.
So, win by the smallest margin possible, but Lucas Auer brought it home. 0.563 of a second ahead of Dries Van Tor. It was Mercedes ahead of BMW. 3rd Mercedes, Maxi Goetz bringing the number 9 Boutson Ginion car home, Boutson VDS car home in 3rd place. Gold Cup winners in 4th place overall, the two Lorenzos, Patrese and Ferrari. Benjamin Goethe and Tom Gamble, a slow pit stop demoted them from 2nd to an eventual 5th, but good to have a McLaren in the mix. Then Ricardo Feller up to 6th place from the middle order. Lucas Legere, another Audi in 7th, and then 8th place Giacomo Alce, best of the Ferraris, and then 9th place was Thomas Fleming winning the Silver Cup class, and Christopher Haase, East Talent Racing Audi completing the top 10, but two very happy people. The driver who's looking cool because he did the first half of the race is Mauro Engel, and Lucas Auer just getting the cap fitting right, and it cap does fit the race winner. And let's go down and hear Antonio Rankin with our winning crew from the 48 Mercedes.
Mauro, Lucas, that was an absolutely phenomenal drive. You seem intent on keeping this championship as tight as possible.
Yeah, for sure. We're not giving up. Yeah, what a race and what a job. Great move from Lucas, and a lot of pressure at the end, so he did an amazing job there.
Yeah, congrats back to Mauro, to the team. Amazing job and tough championship and tough battles, but this one was a good race.
And this is a really difficult race to win when you're not on pole. How did you manage to worm your way through?
I think it was a real team effort. You know, I mean, I had a clean getaway, but nothing I could do with the two cars ahead. So it was all about staying with them, creating a gap backwards. Then the team did a fantastic pit stop, and Luigi did the job at the end, taking the lead and then defending against Rees.
I think Mauro did an amazing in-lap. I think my out-lap was okay, and the boys amazing pit stop, and basically that brought us into the position, and really happy.
Huge congratulations, guys. Well done.
Well, you could sense the pressure. And you know what, John? Winning a race is one thing, but when you do it with a lot of pressure from behind, that is a delight. And when it's also tightening the championship battle to just 2 points, it's even better.
Yeah, but for Lucas Auer to get around the number 9 Mercedes, the car that Jules Gounon started, that was a tough battle all the way down. We saw coming into Adelaide how much of a squeeze was being put on by the number 9 on the 48, and then following that into that quick right-left chicane. I mean, there was nothing left that these drivers could do. They were on the limit.
Well, let's go down to the winners of the gold class with Antonio.
Well, it seems that Trezor Attempto's difficult times have turned around. Congratulations, guys. A double win here in Magny-Cours.
Yeah, I mean, super happy from where we started. Mega start from me, and then Lorenzo did a mega job to finish the race. And yeah, I mean, we are super happy, and I hope we continue the streak. I want to say hi to my family and to my friend Gattone. Ciao.
Yeah, nothing to say. As he said, it's a mega moment. The team did an amazing job. He did an amazing start, mega pit stop. So yeah, nothing to say. As he said, I hope we can keep it going. But it was a tough race, nice. And yeah, just want to thank the whole team for the project, the work in general. It's been amazing. So yeah, let's keep it going. That's it. Thank you.
Congratulations, guys. Long may it continue.
Well, fantastic run for Lorenzo Patrese and Lorenzo Ferrari. Ferrari started, Patrese finished 4th place overall. That is an immaculate run, putting some far better known, more experienced drivers in their wake. They kept it clean, they kept it tidy. Some of the others got it wrong going into the opening lap, and that certainly shuffled the front end order. But that was a fantastic weekend's work for that duo here at Magny-Cours.
Yes, two of the youngest competitors in the field, and that showed tremendous maturity from both drivers. And in fact, we know Lorenzo Patrese, his talent, but I'm actually getting most impressed overall by Lorenzo Ferrari. He's got a little swagger about him. He's got a lot of self-confidence, and he illustrated that when he was behind the wheel during his stint.
Certainly did. Great racing, rubbing shoulders with the others and coming out very, very well placed indeed for victory in the Gold Cup class. But let's go down to our winners of the Silver Cup class. It's a 71 Ferrari AF Corsa crew, Alessio Donas and Thomas Fleming.
Tom, Alessio, you're quickly proving to be one of the best driver pairings on the grid. Alessio, I'll come to you first. What an excellent first stint.
Yeah, I'm not very happy about the qualification, but we won the race. The excellent job from all the team, my engineer Carlo. Infinite thanks from all my family for the support, my girlfriend, and all people who follow me from home.
And Tom, you've had to push so hard to get back to this point.
Yeah, no, it's a really, tough journey to get back here. This weekend hasn't been the easiest for us. We've been caught in a lot of bad luck and, other issues. But yeah, honestly, the car felt amazing today, and the team did an excellent job. We performed a really good pit stop, and that's pretty much won us the race. Our pace after that was really good, and Dono pretty much parted the seas at the first corner. He gained 5 positions just by keeping on the track. So, no, he did an amazing job, and it's big thanks to AF Corsa and yeah, basically the entire team for putting on a great performance for us.
Absolutely excellent, guys. Go celebrate.
You almost need to watch every car's race to understand what happened, but that first corner sort out really did shuffle the pack. But it was about just maybe leaving a tiny bit of a gap to be able to move into there. But sometimes you can't predict what's going to land in your path. But Eliseo did a fantastic job, and that set them up.
I think the whole thing about starting here, going into Estoril and Grand Curve and then into Estoril, is you can almost guarantee there will be some element of contact, cars going off to the right, normally maybe off to the left. And if you're on your toes and preparing yourself that you may have to take avoiding action, or if you're in the beneficiary, to be able to take advantage of somebody else's misfortune. And that's what that 71 Ferrari did.
Well, let's go down and join our bronze class winners. It's a Rutronic pairing of Dennis Marshall and Dustin Blattner.
Dennis, Dustin, we saw some really hard action right at the end. The bronze class was giving us so much excitement.
Yes, so today was quite exciting. Car was really flying. I mean, I think I took over on P4 or something, and then the car was just in such a good shape, and I think I overtook, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8 cars, in just these 30 minutes. So it was really a lot of fun,
Yeah, I think honestly this is all to Dennis right here. We had like a real struggle in the beginning, but I think due to our pit stop, we had a significant advantage, and yeah, like I said, this is all Dennis right here.
And also you need to add, obviously, that the last times it was all on Dustin, basically, the podiums. I'm back now, at least one stint,
And it's great to see, especially given the struggles that your sister car have had this weekend. The team seemed to have so much pace. This Porsche is going so well at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, Porsche was looking was looking really good straight from the first outing on Thursday it was. So yeah, I think we just kept the momentum, and happy that we could get some results.
Huge congratulations. Thank you so much, guys.
Well, they pushed some more, and coming through to take victory in the bronze class. It was a reward for hard work, and it's been a race that was packed with incident from start to finish. So as Dennis Marshall comes down to terra firma, let's take a look at the start of the race. The first three cars got away in grid formation. Look for the battle for fourth place. Little bit of contact. Round went Max Hofer and Konsta Lapalainen sharing the run through the gravel trap. In behind, all looked fine, but in fact, there's a fantastic aerial shot of that. You had the Santalot racing car of Ivan Klemenko running wide on the exit of Estoril. It was an unusual accident, maybe having got on the grass going in, and he fired off across the gravel and struck the tyre wall on the outside, dissipated all the pace. We then had a period behind the safety car, but the driver who controlled the restart was Jules Gounod. He pulled clear in his Boots and VDS Mercedes, and everyone else had to give chase, and chase they did. And then Jules came in around the halfway point in the race to hand over to Maxi Goetz. Would he come back out into the lead race? It was going to be very, very tight indeed, because Mauro Engel flashing into the shop there in the bright yellow Mercedes. He then challenged, and this was a challenge that went on for about 3 or 4 corners. That's the Nürburgring chicane on the downslope with Dries van Toorn tucked in behind, and then running wide out of the Imola chicane. That was the loss of the lead for Maxi Goetz, and second place as well, because Dries van Toorn round the outside in that number 32 Team WRT BMW. Down the slope from Chateau d'Eau they went, but that was the change for the lead. And then change for second place as Dries van Toorn going through as well. Mauro Engel delighted from the sidelines as Lucas Auer pulled clear. And then coming up through the order, the 97 Dennis Marshall driven Porsche making the moves in the Bronze Cup class. But at the end, the checkered flag greeted Lucas Auer. Delight for Mauro Engel, job done, and closing the championship lead to just 2 points. So drivers coming up onto the podium. These are the global points across the 4 championships, with Japan and Australian championships in action overnight, and Porsche leading the way now. So third place there for the number 9 crew, and that is Boots and VDS, Jules Gounod, Maxi Goetz. Second place, Charles Weerts and Dries van Toorn. They still lead the championship, but by winning this afternoon, Lucas Auer and Mauro Engel have brought the gap down from 6.5 points to just a pair of points. John,
yes,
super tight.
Yeah, great for 48, but the number 9 Mercedes, you could see Jules Gounod's face, there's disappointment. They thought they could have maybe got this a race victory, not to be, and there was a real tight battle between all 3 of these podium standers.
So a mixture of emotions on the podium. Dries Van Tor giving away the only really likes winning. Second place, though, still leads the championship. Trophies being handed out for the top 3 crews. And Jules Guénon, as you said, also looking a little glum. Maxi Gertz putting on more of a brave smile for that 3rd place for Boots and VDS. Team WRT with the leading BMW in 2nd place. They get their trophies as well. They've won here before. They ended up taking victory in yesterday's race. But victory today, the number 48 Mercedes crew, Team Winward Racing with Man Filter. It's Maro Engel and Lucas Auer, and here are the winners' trophies being handed to them. And Maro Engel has so many wins on the clock, but Lucas Auer is becoming a winning machine as well. How's it going to shake out at the final round in Barcelona? I almost can't wait for that on the 12th and 13th of October. So trophies held high for the cameras down there, all the press. Smiles suppressed, but then it will be time to let the bubbly fly.
And this time they can actually enjoy it, because last night they were all having to go straight back to bed.
Well, that is the pro podium almost complete. Enjoy the form. So did they. So the champagne flies. It's been a brilliant win for the 48 crew. So the top 3 crews, champagne in their eyes, heat in their race overalls. That was a hot afternoon of work. 1 hour felt more like 2 for some of them out there, I think.
I mean, that was a hard race, and it was physically, hot within the cockpit. The ambient, fortunately, was much lower, so they were able to maintain a very high level of performance all the way through.
Well, Charles Weerts and Dries Van Tor arrived here with a 2-point lead, and they leave here with a 2-point lead over Lucas Auer and Maro Engel. Podium results of both of them, and a win for both of those crews here at Magny-Cours. Ben Green and Constant Apolainen, great promise, but it wasn't to be their weekend, despite claiming one of the pole positions. And their sister cars, Giacomo Alto and Thierry Vermeulen, sit there in 4th. But it's about delivering all the time, and that's why Van Tor and Weerts and Auer and Engel at the top of the championship is going to go all the way to the final round. One slip could be the difference between total title success and disappointment for the rival crew, but it's really, really tight at the top. A warm afternoon racing here at Magny-Cours. Now we're looking forward to the second of the podiums across the 4 classes, waiting for the drivers to be called up. And it's the Gold Cup podium, and it's the Paul Evrard and Gilles Magnus. A little spin in the race delayed their progress, but they're still very well placed in the championship despite that spin. In fact, I tell you what, they've just moved into the championship lead by my reckoning. That's the Santalot Racing crew. 2nd place to CSA Racing, and that's the Audi crew of Lucas Legeret and Simon Gachet. And victory, Trésor Attempter Racing, 4th place overall. Quite remarkable run for the two Lorenzos. Lorenzo Ferrari and Lorenzo Patrese. They've won 3 class wins in the last 3 outings, so they really are setting the gold standard for Trésor Attempter Racing. And here they come, and their rivals will be starting to think, can we possibly topple them again before the end of the year? Because in a circuit, John, like Magny-Cours, there are so many corners in which things could go slightly wrong, notably the Adelaide chicane and that first corner, Grand Courbe into Estoril on the opening lap, but somehow they've got it all right. Six faces of drivers on the podium, and the range of emotions and expressions are quite extraordinary. Certainly Gilles Magnus looking very less than happy with life, but it's all smiles to the Lorenzos on the top step, John.
Yeah, they really were the class of their group, and I think they fully deserve it. Particularly their overall position was an outstanding effort indeed by the 2 young Italians in the Trésor Attempter Audi.
Yeah, they really haven't put a wheel wrong. Celebrations for the crew in 2nd place. CSA Racing didn't get a win on home ground, but good podium position certainly helped their championship challenge in the gold class. But being up on the top step is what counts for Trezor Attempto Racing and their crew in the 88. Remember that number, the Gold Cup class winner in 4th place overall. They did it in the second of the 2 races at Hockenheim, the first of the races here at Magny-Cours, the day and tonight race. And then early Sunday afternoon, they've done it all over again. And their respective class wins came from 7th place overall, 6th place overall, and now 4th. Bit of a trend there, John.
It's going in the right direction. I mean, whether they can ever get to the winners of a race, an overall victory, it's not impossible. I mean, circumstances can often lead to those results, but it was a solid and a very good effort indeed by the 2 young Italians. And, well, certainly Lorenzo Patrese looks the slightly more calm. Lorenzo Ferrari is the one that's going to give it large with the champagne. Look at him.
Well, it's been a fantastic meeting, a day and night race, and then the day race here at Magny-Cours. We arrived with Dries van Tor and Charles Weerts leading outright in the Pro Class by 2 points. And after 2 fantastic races, they leave the Heart of France with a similar lead, going to the final round of just 2 points. It's goodbye from me, Bruce Jones, and goodbye from John Watson. Adieu.